Okay, so vMotion requirements are as follows. So first of all, we know that vMotion is a movement of live VM from one ESXi host to another, and I hope everyone remembers that because we have repeated this many times. That vMotion is a technology in ESXi environment that we can move a live VM without disconnecting users from one ESXi host to another ESXi host. Now, how does this vMotion works? We also need to remember that little bit on this, that as soon as you initiate a vMotion, first of all, what happens is it will make sure that all of the vMotion requirements are met. So what are the vMotion requirements, guys? vMotion requirements are these. You must have a vCenter, you must have two or more ESXi hosts, you must have CPU, same characteristics. You must have vMotion enabled on VM kernel port. With the port, we need to remember that there are two types of port: VM network port and VM kernel port, and you must have a shared storage. Guys, please type in the chat window, what are the four functions of VM kernel port? What are the four functions of VM kernel port? Please type that in the chat window, whoever remembers that. And okay. So you can unmute your mic and ask, what are the four functions of VM kernel port? It's been a long time. We never had a quiz. There should have been a quiz on this. I hope that we are all reviewing everything. Thank you, Naveed. The four. No, this is not the. This is the. These are the four. These are the four functions of DRS. These are the four functions of DRS.
Oh, yeah. Sorry about that.
No
So
problem.
one is actually management.
Yes,
Then
one is
management, then
yes.
storage, then fourth one is fourth one. I think it's
FT.
Oh yeah, FT. Yeah, there you go.
FT. Okay. So VM kernel port. VM kernel port has four functions. Number one is management. Guys, please repeat after me and also write that down again. Next time when I ask you, please remember that, and you need to remember what is the question and what is the answer. So management. Number two, storage. Number three is vMotion, and number four is FT.
Fault tolerance.
Yes, fault tolerance. So these are four functions of VM kernel port. Yes, thank you, Naveed. Yes, it is there. Now in the chat window, you need a shared storage for vMotion. You need same VNet, same port group name for all of the ESXi on all of the ESXi hosts where you are doing vMotion, and host must be licensed. So this is what we already know. Now here, we also need to remember, guys, I need your attention here, that what happens when vMotion is initiated. So first of all, when vMotion is initiated, you will right click on this VM. Guys, I need your attention here, everyone. It is very, very important concept. These concepts are required for the interview as well. And so what happens is when you initiate migrate, on any VM that is running, then what happens is, first of all, what it does, when it is moving it, first of all, it will make sure all of the requirements are met. So it checks all of the requirements. And the requirements are all those that we just discussed in the previous screen. And the requirement is number one, VC. You must have a VC here. And the second one, two or more ESXi hosts. Two or more ESXi hosts. Other than that, you have VM kernel, vMotion enabled on VM kernel port, and so on. So these are all of the requirements. When you migrate these requirements, it will check that if these are met. Number two is what it does. It will start copying that VM to ESXi host. Guys, we know that VM is made up of files. This is not a physical server. This is a VM that is made up of different files, and and the files include number one, a disk file. The first file is a configuration file. So we need to remember that. Anybody remembers what are the type of files that VM is made up of?
NTFS and
No. So the files that VM is made up of, number one is configuration file. Remember that when you have to enable a Hyper-V, you had to go into the VM folder and you had to make change in the configuration file. Remember, in Windows, not in
yeah.
ESXi host. So always remember, guys, that VM is made up of many files. It's not a physical server. I mean, ESXi host is a physical server in the real environment. Your laptop is a physical server. Your laptop is a physical machine, but VM is not a physical machine. It is made up of a files. So the configuration file, the config file is with the extension VMX. So this is a configuration file. So any file that is with the machine name .vmx file is a configuration file. And in this file, all the configuration is stored in this. And all the file names, so let's say the VM name is VM1. So the first file name will be vm1.vmx. So this is a configuration file. And the disk file will be vm1.vmdk file. So this is the disk file of this VM, and vmdk file is sitting here in the data store. And other than that, there is a memory file. There is a memory file, vmem file. Then there are if it is in the suspended state, there is suspension file. There are log files of this VM. So VM is made up of all these files here. Now these all files are sitting in here. So these files are not moved from the data store. So when you create a VM, guys, the files are not moved, only the VM memory is moved. So when you move a VM, what happens is, it might be an interview question. This is why I'm explaining it. What really happens when a VM is moved from one place to another? So always remember, VM is made up of all these files. These files are all sitting in a data store. So the VM has a folder. VM has a folder within of VM1, and within VM1 folder, all these files are there. The VMX file, the VMDK file, and all the files are in this storage. So what is moving from one ESXi host to another? Guys, now remember this, that here, this is in the brain of the ESXi host. This is the brain of an ESXi host. Guys, this is us, and we also have, this is our brain. So in our brain, we have both. So in human brain, so what is in the human brain? So in the human brain, we use human brain as a memory. We also use human brain for intelligence as well. So basically, the human brain, all of our memory is stored in the brain, and also we make decisions from the brain as well. So our brain is basically doing two parts. Our brain is also used as a CPU, and our brain is also used as a memory and a disk. So this one brain is doing all these three functions. Whereas in VM, there are different files for each one of them. So first of all, VMDK file, which is the storage of this disk, it is stored here. The configuration file is stored in the data store. So basically, your complete storage is sitting here. But when you start a VM, the VM is started in the memory of ESXi host. So this is VM1 in the memory of ESXi host, and it is using CPU of ESXi host. So guys, this is a very important point to remember, that what is running on ESXi host. Now, since we know that the VM will be sitting in the data store, it is in a shared disk, which is outside the ESXi host. So when you run a VM, then what happens when you run a VM will be using the CPU and RAM of ESXi host. So this is VM1 running, and then likewise, if there are other VMs running, so the other VM will be running here as well. So this is the second VM. So this is second VM running here in the memory, in the CPU of in the memory of ESXi host, using the CPU of ESXi host. Likewise, there is a third VM. Yes, please go ahead.
So you said that VMs are always in the shared storage, right?
Their
Before,
storage is in the shared storage.
yeah, but before you create a storage, they are not in the storage, right?
Exactly. They are in the local storage of the ESXi host.
So like they are not always in the shared storage then.
No, they are always in the shared storage. Why? Alamgir, why am I saying that? Because in the environment, real environment, shared storage is already there. So whenever you create a VM in a running environment, you will never create a VM in the local storage. Yes, I get your point. If shared storage is not there, then always you will be using a local storage of the ESXi host right
Yeah,
here.
that's
But most of the environment where you will be working, they will all have their shared storage ready. So without shared storage, they cannot use vMotion, they cannot use DRS and all. So in all of the environments, they all have shared storage. So it is by default expected that when you create a VM, it must be in a shared storage.
that means in a
Sir,
real
I have question.
Yes, in the real environment. Yes,
Sir, I have
Wasim, go ahead.
question.
Yes.
Sir, in shared environment, if any of the VM is not turning on, not powering on, so what are the alternates that we can power on the VM?
If in any environment when VM is not starting up, then if it is not starting up, there must be a good reason for that. It might be, and you will get that reason within the recent task, saying that there is not enough on enough memory on ESXi host. There is not enough CPU in ESXi host. So whatever based on the message, you need to troubleshoot that within that ESXi host.
So, sir, at what point we can delete that VM in real environment and rebuild the new one? At what point we have to do it?
Yes, it's a very important question, guys. If let's say this VM was running and the VM is shut down for some reason, maybe you're updating the VM, installing Windows updates, and now VM is not starting up. So if it is not starting up, probably there might be not enough memory on ESXi host, or there might not be enough CPU in ESXi host, or there might not be enough storage on the disk. So first of all, you will try to fix all this. And the next question is that at what point would you decide to go for to delete this VM and recreate this VM? I would say in the real environment, this is the worst case scenario. The worst case scenario will be to delete this VM and we don't recreate it, we bring it from the backup. So all the VMs are every day backed up. All the VMs, depending on the organization, this VM is backed up in backup somewhere. So the worst case will be if this VM is completely corrupted. So corrupted, what is the meaning of corrupted? Meaning this VMDK file, the disk file is corrupted. Guys, please type in the chat window that the disk of the VM is called a VMDK file. Everyone needs to type that except Wasim, because Wasim is driving. So please type that in the chat window that VMDK is a disk file of a VM, or just say VMDK is equal to disk of VM. So I want you to remember that, guys, that VMDK is a disk file. Yes. So always remember. So let's say if this disk is completely corrupted, in that case, Wasim, we can decide to delete this VM and bring it back from the backup. Now, with bringing it back from the backup has a downside. The downside is this backup, depending on how old this backup is. If it is not from last night, then you will lose that data from the time that this backup was taken. Maybe this backup is 1 week old. So 1 week old backup you need to bring in. So, but that is worst case scenario. Before that, we will try our best to bring it back on the same ESXi host and the same VM.
Sir, one more thing.
Yes.
If in case if VM is not powering on or turning on or booting up from vSphere under the ESXi host, can I go on the ESXi host through the HTML web and then try to open that VM from there?
Yes, for sure. But this won't give you any benefit because VCSA is working fine, ESXi host is working fine, and everything that you're seeing on VCSA, you will see exactly that on the same host as well. So if there is something wrong, yes, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead, please. Sorry, go ahead.
So if there is something wrong with the VM, so there can be two types of issues. One issue might be that ESXi host doesn't have resources. Number one. So if that is the issue, you can fix on the ESXi host. But if there is a problem with the VM itself and the files of the VM, then you need to bring it back from the backup.
Okay, sir, for my knowledge, I just want to ask last question. If are these VMs most of the time in the cloud, right?
These no, these VMs that we are talking about, these VMs are in ESXi environment, and ESXi environment is always in a data center.
Okay, but what if the company is running the backup storage and all the virtualizations are in the backup storage? Can we retrieve it from there?
Yes. So
Okay.
I mean, you will be doing the backups too. I mean, you will have a complete backup software that. So today we'll be learning about the backup software as well. So you will be managing the backup as well.
Okay, that's good. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
You're most welcome.
Sir, I have a
Yes.
question relating to
Yes.
security. So, like when I know like backup is done maybe at night, but whatever you are doing, that is not being stored like whatever you are doing like soon after that it's not being stored in the storage.
The backup is stored in a storage. Yes, backup is stored in a separate storage. Yes.
Yeah, but like suppose if I am typing doing something right now, it's not being backed up right away.
No. It's not being backed up right away. Yes. So it
Oh,
will be
because
backup
I'm just
when the
talking
backup
about
is
the local
scheduled.
storage. I'm not talking about the data storage, right? I'm just talking about suppose if there's a like Shabradagma, it has its own storage. So whatever transaction or whatever is being done there, so it's not being done right away on the storage.
It is being done on the right way, but that is not considered as a backup. It is considered as a live VM.
Oh, so you okay? So that means it's not a backup. You can't back up from there, right?
Exactly. It is considered just as a live VM. It is, yes, you're right, 100%. Whatever you're doing in this storage is stored in the VMDK file of this VM. But we are talking about that this VMDK file is corrupted for some reason. So in that case, then you need to bring it back from the backup.
Okay.
Okay, everyone. So we were talking about what really happens on vMotion. So guys, in vMotion, in vMotion, storage doesn't move. Only the memory only whatever is in the memory and memory of the ESXi host moves. So when you initiate migrate of a VM, it will first of all check all of the requirements. Guys, this is an interview question. An interview question: explain what is vMotion. So you need to explain that. First of all, when you can go into VCSA, right click on the VM and initiate migrate. We all know that where to initiate migrate, number one. And then what it does, first of all, it will make sure all of the vMotion requirements are there. And vMotion requirements are vCenter, 2 or more ESXi host, VM kernel, vMotion port, and shared storage and license server. So all of these requirements and CPU should be same. So those are vMotion requirement. And once all the requirements are met, guys, what it does, it will start copying this memory. It will first of all start copying this memory from here to the memory of the other ESXi host. So this is the memory of the VM, and it will start copying bit by bit. So let's say 1 MB is copied, then 2 MB is copied, and it's going on. So it is copying all of the memory. So it will keep on copying all this. So guys, everybody is with me. Please type yes in the chat window, because this is a very important thing that I want you to remember. Okay, excellent. Thank you. Wasim, I think you're driving. I think it's better. Man, how can you ask questions?
I just muted.
No. I'm not concerned about muting. I'm concerned about your driving and also concentrating here in the lecture.
Sir, I just put my cell phone on Bluetooth. I'm listening your lecture. I'm not doing anything else. Just driving and listening.
Excellent. Very good. Okay. So guys, here what we need to remember, is that what happens in vMotion. So first of all, from the memory. Remember that when we do vMotion from the memory of ESXi host, all the data will be copied from the memory of one ESXi host to the memory of the other ESXi host. So it goes from here bit by bit. Let's say the VM is running, a VM is taking, let's say 300 MB from the memory of ESXi host. Remember that there is total 4 GB of memory of ESXi host. So 300 MB needs to move from here to here. And what it does, so first of all, it will start moving 1 MB, then 2 MB, then 3 MB. Guys, at the same time, you need to remember that VM is running and there are changes happening on the VM. It's not a dead VM. It's not a shutdown VM. It's a live VM. So there are maybe, let's say 1,000 users connected to this VM and they are making changes on the VM. So VM is keep on changing and it is copying. So so vMotion happens in stages. So stage 1, it needs to copy everything. So from the memory of this VM, all the 300 MB needs to be copied from ESXi host 1 to ESXi host 2. Once everything is copied, there will be a time where this VM is equal to the memory, so this information in the memory is equal to the information on this memory. At this point, VM1 is not moved yet. So only the memory is moved yet. So in the second stage, it will again make sure that all 300 MB is equal to the memory of this, so equal to the memory of the existing VM on the second ESXi host. So everything is being copied here. So once it will see that this VM which is sitting in the memory is exactly equal to all the information is exactly equal to the information of ESXi host 1 in here and equal. These are both equal. Both are 300 MB. At that point, guys, it will pause for microseconds. So it will pause the source VM for microseconds. We need to remember for microsecond, not for 1 minute, not for 10 seconds, not even for 1 second. It will pause for microseconds this VM and create the VM and connect the VM. So that pausing is known as quasic state. So that pausing of a VM is known as a quasic state. Quasic state is that state in which so here the quasic state, and I'm going to show you what is the spelling, and I need to check that out. The quasic state is basically a state, and this might be an interview question. What is a quasic state in vMotion? The quasic state is that state in which when you're doing a vMotion and the source memory of the VM on ESXi host 1 is equal to the target memory on ESXi 2, at that point, it needs to pause that VM and create the VM and connect the VM to the memory. Now, you cannot, guys.
Sorry, can you repeat that once more again? I totally.
Yes, I know. I'm trying to make it simpler, and I will repeat that for sure. So first of all, guys, we need to remember that you're moving a VM from here to here. Now, what you don't want to have two VMs running with the same name and same IP address, right? Because if there are two VMs running with the same name and same IP address, then there will be a conflict of IP and name, and both VMs will go down. So technically, you cannot have this VM created here while the source VM is ready. I mean, this makes sense. You can only create this VM when this VM is totally done, when this VM is not available. So it needs that microsecond when all of the source memory of this VM is copied here and on this one. And at this point, vMotion is making sure that the 300 MB of VM1 is all copied here and it's all up to date. At that point, it will pause the source VM. So this VM will be paused for microsecond. In that microsecond, this VM will be created and will be attached to this memory, and users won't have any disconnection. So is that understandable to everyone?
So what is this state?
I'll define the state, but is this understandable? That you cannot have one VM with VM. Yes, right?
Yeah, no similar VMs, right?
No similar VM, exactly. You cannot have similar VM, and in vMotion, there will be a time when you have similar VM, maybe for a microsecond. So you want to avoid that, and this is actually the main thing behind vMotion, that you are moving a live VM with connected user, everything, and you need to pause that that VM. At that point, users won't be disconnected, but VM will be created, and the users will be connected to this new VM. So this all happens, guys, in split seconds. Why? Because the physical servers are very, very strong. Even you can see that in our nested environment, it does take some time to do a vMotion, because we are in nested environment. We are running a very heavy, our laptop is, I mean, this complete environment is very heavy on our laptop, because it's running in a nested VMware and a nested virtualization environment. But in the real environment, you can imagine that this Dell 380, DL380 server, which has multiple CPUs, it has a lot of memory. It's a very, very strong server. And on that server, this happens within split second. You just do a vMotion, it does that, and you will just see for 1 second in the recent task that migration is done. So this all happens within seconds.
So can I ask a question?
Yes. I think yeah, Naveed is also asking a question. So Alamgir, you may ask a question.
Yes, sir. So like in one cluster, definitely you can move or migrate VMs, even either a cold migration or a hot migration. What about the different cluster? Suppose if you have if you have 5 clusters, and in fifth cluster you want to move, like if you have a manual setup, so from the fifth cluster, if you want to move the VMs to cluster 1, can you do it?
No, vMotion doesn't work across clusters. If you need to move anything from cluster to cluster, that needs to be planned and designed. So vMotion only works within one cluster. So
Okay.
that might be a cold migration or something else.
Okay, so that was
Yes, Naveed, you may ask a question.
Thank you. So suppose that I'm migrating one VM from one ESXi host to the other,
Yes.
but I didn't realize that on the other ESXi host, there is the same name VM is there actually already there. So while migrating it, what will happen? Like I know this will not going to migrate, but I want to ask you, what will happen to the users? Users will be disconnected at that time or no?
Users will never be disconnected in vMotion.
Will never be disconnected, no matter like the migration was stopped in the middle of the process.
Migration. So how do you stop a vMotion? How do you stop it? I mean, this is happening in the memory. So you won't be able to stop a vMotion until it is completely done. And vMotion, so it will be done in split seconds. So you won't be able to see it, and you won't be able to stop it.
Yes, I got it. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Okay. So I am just looking at it right now. If you have a question, you can ask a question.
Sir, what about these VMs created inside the ESXi host, their IP scheme? What kind of IP scheme they use? Like they all are on a static for sure, right?
Can you repeat your question one more time, please?
Sir, these VMs which we created or in the real environment sitting in the ESXi host,
Right.
all the VMs are on the static IP, I'm pretty sure, right?
All the VMs are on, because these are servers and they are all in static IP, yes.
Okay, and they follow the same IP scheme, I guess.
They are all following, maybe even if they are following a different IP scheme, everything is properly networked in there.
And we have to join them with the domain as well?
So they will be joined right from the beginning. So when you do a vMotion, it won't affect any joining. It won't disjoin a VM. Everything will be there.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Okay, so guys, here I will look at the word Quisic, and so later I will share it with you. But for now, I'm not looking. It's not here. It's in the documentation somewhere. But for now, we need to remember this is the process of moving. This is the process of this process is known as V motion. In V motion, storage remains the same. You're not making any changes to the storage. All of the disks, all of the configuration file, VMDK file, memory file, log files remains the same, whereas only the memory of the VM, so VM that is sitting in the memory of ESXi host will move from one ESXi host to another, and it happens in stages. In stage 1, maybe 100 MB is copied. In stage 2, second to 200 MB is copied, and in stage 3, once this memory is equal to the memory of this, at that point, for a split second, source VM will be stopped and target VM will be started. So this is how it happens in vMotion. Now, same happens in the storage vMotion. In the storage vMotion, the complete disk of the VM will be moved from one storage to another. So that is known as storage vMotion. So simple vMotion is a technology in which you're just moving the memory of the VM from one ESXi host to another. In storage vMotion, guys, in storage vMotion, the disk of the VM is moved from one ESXi host to another. So disk of the VM, so disk will be moved from one ESXi host to another. In storage vMotion, so disk of the VM will be moved from one ESXi host to another.
Sir, I want to ask one thing. Sir, in this process, ESXi host, when we put on this cluster, so I want to know that this DRS system is work only cluster based, because I didn't see anything with the ESXi host.
Exactly. So for DRS, for HA, for FT, cluster is important. For vMotion, you can do it without the cluster.
Yeah. And this, I mean, the status is showing only cluster. The DRS status is only showing cluster based, right, sir?
Exactly. DRS is a cluster. DRS is all cluster based. It is one of the mandatory requirement.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
So everyone, so what is the difference between vMotion and a storage vMotion? In vMotion, the VM will be moved, only the memory and CPU of the VM will be moved from one ESXi host to another, and disk remains the same in the data store. Whereas in storage vMotion, disk of the VM will be, so complete disk of the VM, the complete folder of the VM with all of the files will move from one data store to another. So another important question is, which vMotion is heavier? So which vMotion is heavy? So what do you think? vMotion will be heavy on ESXi host, or storage vMotion will be heavy?
Storage.
That is storage vMotion.
Storage vMotion will be heavy because it is moving the complete disk of the VM and everything, all the files of the VM, memory of the VM from one data store to another. So guys, for that reason, there is a limitation that you cannot have more than 4 storage vMotion in any ESXi host. You should not have more than 4 storage vMotion happening at the same time. Meaning, let's say you need to move 4 VMs from this data store to this data store, or let's say you need to move 6 VM storage from this data store to this data store. So in the first stage, you can only move 4, and then you can move the rest of them. Or it is the best way will be to move 2 first and make sure 2 VMs are moved, the storage of 2 VMs are moved, and then do the next 2, and then move the next 2. So, and divide it. The reason is that as soon as you initiate a data store, your ESXi host remaining memory will go down. Why? Because it is moving all of the storage from here to here, but the CPU and memory will be used in this. So for that reason, storage vMotion is always heavy on ESXi host. Okay, so now with this vMotion concept, guys, we need to now a quick review of DRS concepts. For the DRS, we know that in the DRS concept, what we learned about DRS, DRS is a technology that manages the load on ESXi host. So I'm just looking at the chapter here. DRS. Anyone can try to explain what we already know about DRS? What do you know about DRS?
Sir, DRS is a distributed resource scheduler, and which is the function of it to manage the load between VMs. It has four functions, which is load balancing, VM placement, power management, and resource optimization.
Excellent, excellent. Very good, very good. Thank you so much. So guys, a quick review of DRS. DRS is basically a technology in which it does four different functions. You have load balancing, you have virtual machine VM placement, power management. So Naveed told us load balancing and the main function of DRS. Anyone can explain other than Naveed, what is VM placement?
Sir, it depends on what kind of prerequisite you are using for the VM replacement. One is the automatic, one is the, I guess, fully, and one is the manual.
Hold on. Those are automation levels. Those are automation levels.
Okay.
So VM placement, anyone VM, what is VM placement? Ashish, Alamgir, Faz, Zishan.
Sir, is it the same, like it try to find the best
Exactly, yes.
availability, and then it moves it, right?
It tries to, so at the start of the VM, when the VM is started, so VM placement is when the VM is started, it will make sure what is the best host for that VM, what is the best host to start up that VM, and how does it make sure? It will make sure by what? It will make sure that where are the more resources available to start up that VM. So let's say I have ESXi host 1, I have ESXi host 2, ESXi host 3, and here we have, let's say 50% CPU utilized. Here I have 30% CPU utilized. Here I have 60% CPU utilized. So as soon as the VM starts, you're starting that VM up. So DRS will make sure, Mr. DRS, who's the manager sitting here at the top, it knows that this VM is starting up. So instead of starting that VM on ESXi 1, it will start that VM on ESXi 2 because it is only 30% utilized. So that is, this is the best ESXi host for this VM to start up, because VM can be started on this one. It is only 50% utilized, but the main function of VM placement is to find the best host for the VM where VM can start with less use of resources. So this is what VM placement is. And load balancing in DRS is, so Mr. DRS sitting here at the top needs to make sure that all of the ESXi hosts are properly used and they all have free resources available. So for that reason, what it does, that DRS will make sure that if there are VMs sitting on all of them, and one of the ESXi host is more used as compared to others, so it will balance out resources among these ESXi hosts. So this is what DRS does in the real environment. And the fourth one, we also discussed the power management, and power management is an option in which it will shut down an ESXi host after moving all of the VMs to other ESXi hosts, so that to save up power for your organization. So power management, so always remember with the word power, that it will try to save up power for your organization, power meaning hydro for your organization, by shutting down an ESXi host. And it can also start an ESXi host up if it requires. If it requires, it can shut down and power up an ESXi host, so it can do both of them. But this option seems to be risky for many organizations. This option is not used unless it is, this can be used in a test environment. In test environment, even if power management takes a wrong decision, wrong decision moving VMs to another ESXi host and shut down an ESXi host, or probably it took a right decision to move the VMs to other ESXi hosts, since at that time there were a lot of resources that can be used for these VMs, and shut down that VM. Maybe after half an hour, it found out, no, I need that ESXi host, and it was not able to start that ESXi host. So incidents like these can happen in the real environment, but you cannot afford such incident in a production environment. For that reason, power management option is never used for production load. It is always, you can use them in the test environment or a training environment where you have test and deployment servers. You can shut down an ESXi host and it won't affect your company's revenue. So this is power management. Optimization and better performance, it will keep on doing that within the cluster. So it will keep on optimizing this for all this environment. It will keep on to make it better performance, or to make it more fast. The cluster, as long as you have more space in the cluster, you have more memory and CPU, your cluster will be faster to response.
Sir?
Yes, please
Hello?
go ahead.
A very quick question, sir. Isn't it the load balancing and VM motion? Isn't it almost the same thing? Because both of them look the.
So you're
resource.
saying that if
Yeah,
V
load
motion and
balancing and the
DRS.
virtual machine placement, isn't it almost the same thing?
Okay, so you're saying load balancing and VM placement? No,
Yeah, I bit of confusion on this.
Okay. So these are two different things. Load balancing is load balancing is happening 24/7. Okay, so load balancing is happening all the time. So load balancing never stops. Load balancing is happening 24/7. It is looking, Mr. DRS is looking at the environment. It is looking at the CPU. So it looks at the CPU, and it is also looking at the RAM as well. So if RAM is, let's say, 70% used on this one and 20% used on this one, so it knows that it can move some VMs from here to this VM to balance out the RAM usage. So FAS, load balancing happens all the time, but VM placement only happens when the VM is starting. So when the VM is starting, it only happens when the VM is starting, and that's it. If the VM is running, VM placement doesn't work. It only works when you restart a VM, then it will find the best host for that VM, and then it works.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. It's a good question, though.
Sorry, sir.
Yes.
So load balancing, what it checks?
Sorry?
In load balancing, what it checks?
Yes, it checks the CPU and RAM of ESXi host.
Thank you.
Okay. So it will check the CPU and RAM of ESXi host, and then it will take a decision and move it to one place to another. Guys, this is how it looks like. DRS, there are 3 ESXi hosts, 30% to 60% and 50% utilized. Here, this is the most utilized host, but it is fine. It won't take any decisions at this point. It will take a decision only if one of the hosts is 90% utilized, or maybe 80% utilized. At that point, it can take a decision and move out some resources to a less utilized host, and this is the work of DRS. So DRS will use vMotion. DRS cannot move it. It will ask Mr. vMotion to come and pick up these VMs and move it to another ESXi host. So for that reason, for DRS, vMotion is a mandatory requirement. So it is a mandatory requirement for DRS to have vMotion. So this is called DRS, and DRS works in 3 automation levels. Number 1 is manual level, partially automated, and fully automated. Here we all need to remember that these are DRS different levels. So in all cases, DRS is monitoring. So here, let's try to make it simple. So in manually automation, DRS will be monitoring. So it will be monitoring the resource. In partially automated, it is still monitoring. In fully automated, it is still monitoring. I mean, it is exactly like a gear in a car, which is whatever gear you're in, the car will be driving. right? So gear will be working in all levels. It is just that on gear 1, the car speed will be less. On gear 2, car speed will be more. On gear 5, the car speed will be the most as compared to all of the previous level. So in all of these automation level, your DRS is still monitoring. In the manual level, it will only provide recommendations. Here it is only providing recommendations and it won't take any actions. Whereas in partially automated, it is monitoring and providing recommendations. And it will take action only on critical 1 and critical 2 machines. Whereas in fully automation, it is monitoring, it is providing recommendation, and it is taking full action. So it is taking, it will take action, it will take full action on all the VM, all types of VMs. Now, even in fully automated, you can also decide that should you be on the conservative side or should you be on the aggressive side. So conservative side, conservative and aggressive. It is aggressive or conservative. Is aggressive or conservative? So normally we keep that in the middle. So if you keep it on the aggressive side, guys, what happens is in fully automation mode, it can make your fully automation and aggressive can make your ESX environment very, very heavy. Why would it be heavy? Because let's say you have 6 ESXi hosts. So you have 6 or 5 ESXi hosts, and on each ESXi host, there are 20 VMs. So 20 VMs on this, 20 VMs on this, 20 VMs on this, 20 VMs on this, 20 VMs on this. In total, you have 100 VMs running. And 100 VMs, also you need to remember, guys, and I'll come back to your question just a moment, Alamgir. And 100 VMs, you need to remember, guys, that these VMs might be, some of them are very heavy VMs. So some of them are web servers, some of them are database servers, and some of them are different type of servers. All these VMs are, so this is a heavy loaded environment. Now in this environment, if you have DRS, and if you keep it on fully automation level, and if you keep it aggressive, so you have DRS, number one, you have fully automation, and you're keeping it on aggressive level. Guys, at that point, if it sees even a slightest imbalance, it will start moving VMs. So there might be a chance that it is moving VM just for making it perfect. So you don't want it to be perfect, but you want it to be running. So it will move VMs from here to here, then here to here, then here to here. So there will be so many movement on aggressive mode. So in a heavy environment, we don't keep fully automated on aggressive. We will try to keep it conservative or in the middle in fully automation mode. Alamgir, if you have a question, you may ask.
Yes, sir. So in the nutshell, in the manual, basically you get recommendations and you do your stuff. Like you move you get recommendation, maybe, okay, this ESXi host better place, you just move to this one.
Exactly.
Right? In the partially automated, it's a kind of same manual, right? Almost, because you have to do it, right? Because you will get recommendation, okay, like this ESXi host is better, so you move this one from here to here, right?
But it will automatically move critical 1 and critical 2 VMs. So sorry, here it says priority 1 and priority 2 VMs. So I'm saying that previously they used to call it critical, now they call it priority 1 VM, priority 2 VM. So in partially automated, it will provide recommendation, but it will only move the most critical servers. It won't move the non-critical VMs.
So then if it moves automatically, then what recommendation it's giving to?
So the recommendation it will giving for priority 3, priority 4, priority 5 VMs. Remember? So it's not moving the non-critical VMs. So in that, it will still provide you recommendation saying that, this priority 4 VM needs to be moved from this place to another. So priority 4 and priority 5 VMs.
So, but it will move automatically, right?
It will move automatically only priority 1 and priority 2. And for priority 3, priority 4, priority 5, we need to move them manually.
Oh, okay, okay. No, I got it.
Okay.
Okay.
So guys, what I'm gonna do is I am going to edit my DRS cluster, and you can edit your DRS cluster, and let's put our DRS cluster in manual mode, and let's see if it can provide us any recommendation. So I'm gonna put it in manual mode. In manual mode, we need to just see the recommendation, because in automatic mode, it will try to move all of the VMs automatically. So I just edited my DRS cluster. I went in and I changed the automation level to manual mode. In the manual mode, it shouldn't move anything, but it will basically try to give us recommendations. So for that, so how do you see and where do you see that if it provides any recommendation? Guys, you need to select the cluster, and then you can go to the summary screen. In the summary screen, you will see within the summary screen right here within vSphere DRS, as soon as it sees any imbalance, then here it would provide some recommendation. Now, in order to see some imbalance here, what I can do is I can try to start another machine on this. Let's say I have another machine on this, which is VCSA1. At one point, I started this VCSA some time ago. Let's see if it is able to start the VM. So first of all, guys, it is providing us the recommendation of a VM placement. So it's saying that place VCSA1 on ESXi1. So it is providing a recommendation. It is providing a recommendation, but not taking any action. Since our DRS is on basically on a manual mode, it is providing me a recommendation and it's not taking action. Otherwise, if it would have been on a fully automated mode, then we shouldn't see this screen. So I'm going to click OK on this, and VCSA is starting up. Here VCSA is starting up, and we should be able to see some changes in here, and we'll come back and see that if there will be any recommendation. So this VCSA is starting up. I am going to start another VM, which is this VM. Let's see if this VM also starts up.
Sir, so from cluster, where should we go for manual?
Yes, from the cluster, you need to go to DRS. So first of all, you need to select the cluster, and then you need to select configure. And within configure, you need to go to DRS and DRS service, and there you need to click edit.
Okay, sir.
Okay. So here, apply recommendation. If you're looking at the recent task, in the recent task, it's saying that you need to apply recommendation. And again, now it is giving me a recommendation for vMotion 1 server, the VM with the name vMotion 1. It is giving me a recommendation that you can either start that on 1 or either start that on 2. So on both ESXi host is good for this. So I'm going to select 2 in this case. That let's start this on second one. So now,
where can you find recommendations here?
Sorry?
Where can you find the recommendations? When
Yes.
you go to cluster, when you turn on the
yes, when you select the cluster, and from the cluster, first of all, it will start giving you recommendation right there. And so recommendation will be in the summary screen. So on the summary screen, you should be able to see the recommendation right here, if there are any. So for now, I'm just applying those recommendations. That is why I'm not able to see any recommendation. But in your case, if you're not applying them, you should be able to see recommendation. So recommendation is that screen, the screen that you just saw here, saying that the best cluster should be the best place to apply the cluster. Apply the VM. Okay, so so guys, the second thing that we wanted to discuss, I mean, with this cluster, with DRS at the moment it is running on. So in order to see how DRS is doing, so let's say you're on the job and you need to see that if this environment has DRS or not, you can just select the cluster and go to the summary, and on this side you will see if DRS is enabled in this environment. Guys, the second thing that we needed to discuss was that how to enable HA. So HA, we remember from the last lecture that HA is a technology. HA is a technology in which what happens is that if ESXi host is crashed, in that case, all the VMs on that ESXi host will be started on another ESXi host. So basically, HA protects us from physical physical crash of ESXi host. So HA is a technology that protects us from physical ESXi host crashing. In HA, what happens is all the VMs will be starting on another ESXi host.
Sir, mine is not showing when I turn on, like when I click on summary, but mine is not showing nothing.
Yes, you can. So just beside DRS, just click the arrow down. Just beside DRS on the summary screen, you will be able to see everything. Are you able to see now or not?
No, sir. When I click on summary, then I have to click configure.
When you click on, no. When you click here, look at this. So first
Yeah.
you select the cluster, then you
Okay.
select the summary, and then you select this down arrow.
Oh, okay, okay.
Okay. Here you will see the DRS summary right here.
Sir, if I have a lot of recommendation alarms is showing that there is some warning critical. So what should I do with this thing?
Yes. So can you quickly share your screen and show it to us?
Sure, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. So first of all, let's look at this here. So everyone, it's a good question. I mean, if you all have something like that, first of all, if we look at the recent task, on the recent task, I can see some warnings, some critical critical status of this ESXi host 3. So here, in order to fix that, all you need to do is this. Okay. So, okay. So here, hold on. Zishan, can you click on ESXi host 1?
Yes, sir.
Yes. So you can click on ESXi host 1. As soon as you do, select summary, click on the summary screen. And on the summary screen, you will see whatever is wrong with the with this ESXi host. Why is there a triangle on this? So just it takes a moment, and this is the triangle is because of these things. So if you scroll down a bit, scroll down on the screen. Yes. So first of all, it is saying that ESXi host shell for the host has been enabled and SSH is enabled. You can suppress these warnings. This is just a warning. It's just saying that SSH is on this ESXi host. So you can click yes.
Yes.
Yes. And you can suppress the other warning as well.
Right, sir.
Okay, so this is gone, and so this will be clear. I mean, and the third ESXi host, you know that the third ESXi host is,
Yes, sir.
you have paused that. That is why you have that critical message.
Okay. So, sir, the ESXi host 1 is showing still warning, sir.
So this was a warning that was at one time at this time. So currently you have 513, and the warning came at 508. So probably at that point, either ESXi host was busy, or it was like maybe it was starting up. It's not starting up, but it was busy. But at the moment, we can see it's fine. So if there are warning in the okay, so these are alarms actually. So you can right click on that, right click, and so the warning. So click on warning first, and you can reset to green. So just say reset to green. So which means that you have looked at the warning and this warning is not there anymore. So you can all reset to green. And if it is a real warning, then it will come back again. So at the moment, we can see your ESXi host is fine. But you need to remember that since our ESXi host is busy, sometimes you do get these warning. Now you can change these alarms to recent task. Click on the recent task, please. So recent task is basically the main window you need to keep an eye on. Alarms is fine. So whenever you see a triangle on ESXi host, then you can go to the alarms and see what is wrong with that.
Okay. Achha, sir, I have one more question. For example, if I am creating more VMs, sir, why it's not automatically transferred to other? I tried a lot of VMs, sir. Because
Okay,
yesterday,
yes. Everyone, this is a very important question. Whenever you create a VM, why is it not doing a VM placement? Right? Is that your question?
Yes, sir. Yes,
Right?
sir.
Yes,
Exactly.
VM placement, it does when you start the VM. So first of all, you created a VM, but you never started a VM. So you need to
Sir,
start the VM, power on the VM.
if I can even start also, sir.
And these are sitting in the shared storage. So now it is doing a recommendation. So now you can see on your screen that it is
Yes, sir.
saying that you should move this VM05 to either 1 or 2. It's up to you. So it's saying both are good for that. Both
Okay.
are good hosts. So you can move it either on 1 or 2. So this is what is known as VM placement.
Okay, sir.
So you change your automation mode to manual.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I did
Okay, so this
manual.
is why it is only providing recommendation. Otherwise, if automation mode is fully automated, then it won't provide recommendation. It will just take action.
Okay. Right.
Okay.
So, but I just wanted to see this practice like automatically it's move.
Okay, automatically move. So go back to the
Yeah.
cluster and first of all, change it. Go back to the cluster and change your full manual automation mode to fully automated mode.
Okay, sir.
So go to configure. And yes, just go ahead. Very good.
Yes, sir.
And also do one thing. Go back to edit and change it to aggressive. So everyone, if you need to see more and more changes, but remember that as soon as you change this to aggressive mode, the migration threshold, the migration threshold, as soon as you change this to in the middle, Zishan, there is that line, the small, yes, this is conservative to aggressive, but as soon as you change it to aggressive, this might hang your complete VCSA environment. Why? Because it will start doing vMotion even if it sees a slight imbalance. So now since we change this to fully automatic and aggressive mode, and as soon as you do start a VM, it will automatically place that VM where it needs to go to.
Sir, I have started my VMs, but it's not showing anything.
Okay, just a second. We'll change your screen. So hold on.
Yes, sir.
So it is going back.
So this console, I cannot make it more bigger because it's very small.
This console. So first of all, you can so go up and you can stop your. You can close your library. The other side, the left side.
This one, sir.
No. Where
This?
your VM name? Yes, you can just close this window. Just close the window. You can see that small cross at the top.
Mhm.
Yeah, just close this window. So first of
Yeah.
all, you can do it in this manner. And if even so, since we are working, in this environment, so it will be a bit smaller here.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so for now, you need to wait for this because, or you can stop this. Okay, it is completed. The power on is completed. And I would say, as soon as you get a chance, go back
Okay.
and, and look at your recent task now. Everyone look at the recent task. Now it is already doing a V motion. It is automatically started doing a V motion on the second screen. Sorry. Okay, so it's again reloading. So yes, you can see in the recent task, it is doing a V motion of
This one, sir.
VCSA02 to another server. This is your main VCSA server, or is it?
Yeah. So this is my main VCSA.
Oh, wow. Okay. So as soon as you get a chance, Zishan, I would say go
Yeah.
back to your
Yeah.
cluster, go back to DRS and change that aggressive to
Mm-hmm.
conservative.
Okay. So here we go. This cluster is here.
So once it loads back, then you just go back and configure and make it conservative.
Okay.
Okay.
Right. Right.
Okay. Excellent. So Alamgir, you can share your screen.
Okay, sir.
Okay. So first of all, hold on. Alamgir, your both ESXi hosts are out of cluster. Why they are out of cluster? Guys, please make your mic mute if you're not talking, because I'm okay. Thank you. So Alamgir,
Yes, sir.
your ESXi host is not in the cluster, so they're not part of DRS. That's why your DRS is not doing anything. So first of all, drag your ESXi host 1 on the cluster. No, not the VM, not the VM. You're dragging the VM.
Oh,
So
okay.
leave it. The ESXi host. So click on ESXi host 1 and drag it on the cluster. Yes. Not the data center cluster.
It's cluster, sir. Cloud host
Yes,
only.
here. Yes, cloud shared.
Uh,
No. Okay.
one.
Okay, leave it. Okay. So first of all, where is your cluster? Which one is your cluster? This one. Okay.
Yeah, this one, sir.
This one, right? So
Yeah.
just drag it on this one. Good. So now it is moving. No, it is moved into the data center. It's not moved into the cluster. So again, just put it on cloud shared. You're putting it on the data center. Maybe because we are sharing, you're not able to, yes, on this one.
Oh, okay.
So now it is going into the cluster. Very good. And do the same thing for ESXi2. And now you can see your DRS is now 11% busy.
Oh, okay. Thank you, sir. That's it.
Okay. And the DRS, so now they're all in the cluster. Yes.
Oh. So, okay. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Okay, guys, about HA. About HA, we need to remember about HA, everyone, that HA is
Sir, if you don't mind,
Yes, you can share
can
your
I
screen.
share my screen if you
Yes.
don't mind, sir?
Yes, for sure.
Can I give you TeamViewer?
Give me.
Oh, Team Viewer. Okay.
Yeah.
Team Viewer, just a second. Team Viewer, where is Team Viewer?
Same ID, but password is
Okay, just a second.
no problem.
Let's change something. Yes, what is your password?
Yeah, 66.
66.
Yeah, W for William, H for hotel, T for
Yes.
Toronto, number 2.
T for Toronto and number 2.
Yeah.
Okay.
My DRS is off, so I don't know why.
Okay. So here your DRS is off and hold on. So this is your server 1
Yeah.
and you are connected to your ESXi, your VCSA
Host.
on this one. Okay.
Yeah.
So first of all, let's look at your environment. Your environment is, there is a folder called Canada. There is a data center called Toronto Data
Yeah.
Center. There is a cluster called Toronto Cluster HQ. That is excellent.
Yeah.
Your ESXi host 1 is having some issue. So first of all, let's look at this one. Just to keep an eye on this, everyone and Salim, we need to look at the recent task as well. So for that, we are just going to move this a little bit up so that we can have a look at it. Let's see. Do you see any, a line where you can bring it up? Let's see. So recent task is your eyes, everyone. Recent task will give you, it will give you the right, it will give you what's happening in your, so at the moment, we don't have eyes on our VCSA environment. So I am not able to see the recent task. So I'm going to click on recent task here. Let's see if it can bring it up.
Okay.
What about alarms? So Salim, can you move your mouse right above this line and see that if you can get that, equal to sign so that you can move it up?
Yeah, I don't know. It's not happening, so I tried.
Okay, it's not happening. Okay, just a second. Let's see. So here, this is working. Your ESA, your VCSA is working fine. It's just that it's not showing this. Why is it not showing that thing?
I don't know, sir.
What is this? It's a Chrome, right? What we'll do is we will also log into Firefox just to change the browser. We'll open up Firefox.
So, sir, when you take the new snapshot, should we erase the first one? And
Yes. Keep on erasing the other ones. Yes, because this will free up the space.
And we should always take the snapshot wherever the VCSA was created, right?
Exactly.
Okay, thank you.
What is the password?
Yeah, I put it.
But hold on. There is a typo in vSphere as well. So up in the username. Okay, so yes, right here. Oh, let me do it. Let me do that.
Okay.
Okay, and password is password 1?
Yeah, exclamation password.
Exclamation sign. Okay, good. So I am going to close this one because Chrome is not working properly. So just close this so
Okay.
that we don't have more load on our machine. So, and we'll just keep it running, this one. And here, let's see. So here, see, you can
Yeah.
automatically see this recent task. So sometimes just a change of browser can work too.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So in this, you can go here, and here we can see you have made a lot of folders here, which is fine. And here we can see that there is some red sign on this. So one way of looking at it, we can go to the summary screen, and in the summary screen it will be right here. So it's saying that the host connection and power state. So when you started it, at that point this error came, and the error is right here, but it's not anymore. It's not anymore
Oh,
because your ESXi is working fine. So this error, and this is the old one, and you need to remove it. So we will change it
oh,
to reset to green. But before changing it, everyone, I need your attention. Whenever you see this sign here with the server where it shows you something is happening, you can just look at this here in the summary, or the best place is the alarms. So within the alarms, you will see that in there as well. So if you're not able to find it here, you can always check that out in the alarm. So if I can just move that up a bit. So here, this is the alarm that we are getting here. So either you can right click on this and reset to green, or you can do reset to green right from here. Because we know that there is no power state problem with this. Power state problem at one time when Salim was starting that up, at that point it had that error message. Okay, so what was your question, Salim? Next question.
yeah, my DRS was not turning on. I
Okay,
tried.
so DRS was not turning on. Let's check that out. We can go to DRS setting, we can go to configure, and did you went to edit?
Yeah.
So you need to go to edit, and within edit, all you need to do is
Oh,
turn
okay.
that on from right from here.
Oh, okay.
Okay, and we'll just turn it on, and it will be turned on now. You can go to the summary, and right here you can see that it is working now.
Oh,
Okay,
okay.
and how do you know that if it is working? That right here within DRS, at the moment it is just loading up, and your DRS should be right here. So here, the DRS is here,
Oh,
and you can expand this. And
yeah.
here it's saying your DRS, your complete cluster is 31% utilized. And the more and more machines you will start, the more it will be utilized, and it will take more actions. Okay.
Oh, okay.
So everyone, DRS is basically a service with which automatically does what? So DRS will manage your environment, will move machines based on whichever ESXi host is busy.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Can you read the sum of
Can you read the what?
the summary?
Okay.
I don't see here summary, like recommendations. Where you see the recommendations?
Recommendations, so it will show you the recommendation on the screen. So let's say if it is, so what is your DRS mode? Is it manual or partially automated or fully automated?
It's a manual, sir, but it's 35%.
Yeah, on 35%, it won't provide any recommendation, but the recommendation that you can see will be when you start a new VM. So start any VM, and on the screen, you will find a recommendation. I mean, on the screen, it will give you a recommendation.
Actually, my all VMs are started.
Okay, so just restart one of the VMs, power off, power on.
Okay. Okay, I got it now, sir.
So you got recommendations?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. So guys, let's look at the HA requirement. So HA requirements are basically, so where is my HA requirements here? So HA requirements are these. So first of all, what is HA is this HA? No. So HA is this, guys. In HA, always remember HA is high availability option. Number one, in HA, it protects us against physical damage of your ESXi host. If there is no physical damage to ESXi host, HA will not work. HA will only work in case if ESXi host goes down, and then all of the VMs will be started on other ESXi host. So HA is that technology. Now DRS is always okay. DRS manages the running ESXi environment, whereas HA manages when ESXi host goes down. So HA, what it does, HA will recreate VMs. But the problem with HA is that since the VMs will be recreated on another ESXi host, the users will be disconnected for a few minutes. So users will be disconnected. So HA provides us protection against physical damage of ESXi host. Now, components of HA are, number one, that HA has all these agents that work between the two ESXi hosts. So always remember, guys, whenever you enable HA, whenever we enable HA, everyone, what happens is that one ESXi host becomes master, and all other ESXi hosts becomes slaves. So master and slave relationship between ESXi hosts. So we need to remember that option as well, that there will be a master and slave relationship between ESXi hosts. So as soon as we enable HA, so what happens? So how do you enable HA? First of all, guys, we enable HA right from the cluster. So you need to go into the cluster, and then you need to click on configure, and then just like we enabled DRS, we can enable HA. As soon as you enable HA, guys, election happens. Election happens between all of the ESXi hosts. So election happens between one ESXi host, second ESXi host, and third ESXi host, and fourth ESXi host, depending on how many ESXi hosts you have in your environment. Let's say there are 3 ESXi hosts. So let me make this here. First of all, you must have a vCenter, VC. You must have a VC. Within a VC, you must have a data center. For HA, within data center, you must have a cluster. For HA, number 3, and within the cluster, you can enable HA. So I can enable HA within the cluster. So once you enable HA within the cluster, guys, what happens is the very first thing is the election will happen among these ESXi hosts. So the word is election. So guys, the word is election. So election just happened so election happens in many countries. Election happens in Pakistan, in India, in Iran, in US, and recent election in US. You know that Trump won again. So that was amazing. That was, it was surprisingly that Trump won again. Is that a correct statement?
Sir, I think you like Trump very much.
Yes, exactly. No, I don't like Trump. Actually, I just wanted to wake everyone up because, everyone is quiet for a long time. Especially Ashish is very, very quiet today. Ashish, what happened to you, man? So what's going on? Okay, Ashish is not here, or maybe talking on mute.
No, I think he must be in the washroom.
Oh, the washroom.
Or maybe he's preparing questions.
Oh, really? He prepares questions with the lecture.
MCSA.
Okay. Okay, so we have how many people like Trump? We have Faz who likes Trump. We have Human who doesn't like Trump, and we have Alamgir. Very good, guys. So election happened. Guys, election happened. So always remember, whenever you enable HA, election also happens between ESXi host everyone, and one of the hosts will become master. One of the hosts will become master, and all other hosts will become slaves. So this is a technical. These are both technical words that one of the hosts will become master, and all of the other ESXi hosts will become slave. And now in this, what happens is that before it used to be long time back with a previous version of ESXi host, these were known as primary and secondary. Now they call them master and slave from the, previous in the last few years, in the last few versions, it is known as master and slave. Now the main function of the master is to keep an eye on all of the ESXi hosts. Guys, remember that the main function in HA is if any ESXi host goes down at any time, then master has to decide that that how many VMs were there and how many VMs needs to move, be recreated on the other ESXi host. Remember that HA will protect our VMs. There will be a little downtime. So let's say there were 10 VMs sitting on this one. As soon as this ESXi host goes down, these 10 VMs, some of the VMs will be started here, and some of the VMs will be started here. And there will be a disconnection for the users, but in few minutes, your environment will be back up. So your environment will be back. It's not that in the middle of the night, your ESXi host went down, and the next morning, the VMware admin will come and start the VMs and start the ESXi host. No. So HA will protect you for hardware failure. Yes, there is a small little disconnection for the users, but otherwise, your VMs and ESXi host will be back. Yes, this ESXi host that went down might be still down, and you need to fix it, but the VMs that were sitting on this are all started on the other ESXi host. Now, in order to do
question.
Yes, go ahead.
Like during this process, definitely when the clients are working, so when HA happens, so whatever they are doing, the data will be lost.
Yes, there might be a chance the data will be lost. There might be a chance because some of the VMs might be banking server VMs. Some of the VMs might be a website for selling goods, selling things. So if there are users connected and they are doing any transactions, and in the middle it just went down and the VM also went down, and the VM will take like few minutes to start on the other server. During that time, whatever transaction were there will be lost, and there might be a chance of data loss as well.
So that means it will be easy for those users, huh?
It will be easy for the users.
Eid, who are buyers.
Oh, yes, it might be. They can, it can be on both sides that they can lose their transaction and they don't have any record for the transaction. So they might lose their money as well. Or otherwise, they can also send an email and get their refund back or stuff like that. So yes, there will be there might be a chance of data loss. So this is one downtime there is, but the other huge big advantage is that if this ESXi host goes down among hundreds of ESXi hosts, then at least it will come back up. You will be working on ESXi host, but the VMs will be up in few minutes. Okay. Now, in order to have, so first of all, always remember election only happens with HA. Election has nothing to do with FT, or election has nothing to do with DRS. So election only happens on this, and one server becomes master and the other server becomes slaves. Now, you might have a question: what is the criteria that one becomes master and other becomes slave, and how does it decide? Guys, HA will automatically decide on its decide based on the number of resources that are available on any host. Let's say this ESXi host, these are all physical servers. Remember that these all server will be physical server. Now, in the real environment, yes, Faz, you can ask a question.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you, Faz.
Yeah. Yeah, my question is, in the beginning, you told me, told us that election takes place between two XSI hosts, and one becomes a master, and one becomes a slave. So, in a case when the EXSI is dying down, the master copies all the VMware from the dying ESXi to another ESXi. But in the case there are only two XSI servers, one becomes a master and one becomes a slave. And in that case, the master ESXi machine dies down. What happens?
Yes, in that case, it's a good question. That let's say there are only two ESXi hosts and master goes down that had all the information. So guys, let's correct this information. The all the information of both ESXi hosts is sitting with the vCenter. So it is sitting on the vCenter, and with the vCenter, it is sitting here in the vCenter. So regardless of whichever host goes down, the VM will be started on the other host. So the ideally, for HA, you must have 3 ESXi hosts. It can work with 2 ESXi hosts, but ideally you must have 3 ESXi hosts, so that the other 2 ESXi hosts can handle the load of other for the one that went down. So ideally there must be 3 ESXi hosts for this, and the information is not sitting with master. Master only decides that where the information needs to go to. All the information will be sitting with the vCenter. Okay, so guys here, remember that this is known as, so one becomes master, all other becomes slave. Interview question is that what is the criteria that one becomes master? So the criteria is the server with the most resources becomes the master. So let's say this ESXi host has 6 CPUs. This ESXi host has 4 CPUs. This ESXi host has 2 CPUs. So in this, the most number of CPUs are with this, so this will become master. So just like in the real world, the rich people becomes the elected people because they spend money and all that. You can, you can just remember that with this, that interview question, that what is the criteria that one ESXi host become master as compared to others? The ESXi host with most resources becomes master. So maybe all of the ESXi host has equal number of CPUs because they're all exactly the same. Let's say this has 6 CPUs, this has 6 CPUs, and this has 6 CPUs. What other things it can compare? It can compare then for the storage, that how much storage then this all of them has. So let's say all of them has equal amount of storage. What about the RAM? Maybe one has more RAM than the other one. Okay, so all of them are exactly the same server, same CPU, same RAM, same storage. Then how would it decide? Then it would decide, guys, with calculating the free resources. So all of them are equal in resources, but this ESXi host has 40% free resources. 40% of this resources are free, and on this one only 50% is free. On this one only 20% is free. So then this will become the master. Okay, so guys here, first of all, one becomes master, others become slave, and these are the components of HA that controls everything. So first of all, it has, so both ESXi hosts will have FDM agents. So FDM stands for fault domain management. So this stands for fault domain management. This is an agent of HA. So this is the main HA agent that works on both of them, and then this controls. So as soon as you enable HA, FDM agent will be installed on all ESXi hosts. This is why it takes a little bit time while installing ESXi, while enabling HA, and one of them will become master and the other one will become slave. So guys, we need to remember that HA protects us from physical failure of ESXi hosts. So here we need to remember protects. Write that down in your notes for interview purposes. It is protecting against physical host failure.
So FDM, what it stands for?
Fault domain management. So FDM is fault domain management. And then there are these other services that can protect against this as well. Guys, for interview purposes, just remember this, that this protects us against, this protect your environment against physical domain, physical ESXi host failure. If one ESXi host goes down, on the other ESXi host, all the VMs are restarted. This is an interview question that I've seen many times whenever I went for VMware interview, VMware admin interview. They all ask the difference between, what is the difference between DRS and HA. So DRS is DRS is a service that is that load balances the VMs in all ESXi hosts, whereas HA is a service that protects us against the host failure. So when the host goes down, what happens is one of the ESXi host becomes the master, one of ESXi host becomes master, and all other becomes slave. As soon as it goes down, what happens is that all of the VMs that are sitting on this ESXi host will be started on other ESXi hosts. So there are three states where your ESXi host can down. So there are three states there are three failure states of host that it can detect as a host failure. So HA can detect the host failure in three types of states. Number one is partitioned. A host loses network connectivity with the master host. Number two, isolated. A host becomes network isolated. Number three is host stops functioning. So these are the three failure states that HA can detect. Number one is maybe your network is down. Maybe your network is down. This is known as partition stage. Maybe your one ESXi host is disconnected from the network. So all other ESXi hosts are working fine. The network is fine, but this one is not connected, but ESXi host is fine. Guys, remember that in this case, the problem is the network, not the ESXi host. So, but maybe the master thinks that this ESXi host is not available. The second one is that here, so in this case, if this was the master, then the second one will become the master automatically. So if there can be only one master in this. So remember that ESXi host is fine, but it is only partitioned. The network is the issue. As soon as the network is fixed, your environment will be back running again. The second one is isolation, which is in which the network of the ESXi3 is down, but ESXi host is fine. So no need to create VMs on them. The third state is complete ESXi host is down and the VM will be created on the other ones. So, so these can be three states where HA needs to resolve this issue by creating VMs on this. But in all three cases, it will be considered as the ESXi host is down and it needs to fix the VM's connection to end users. Abdullah has a question saying that after HA situation occurs, VM shifted to other host but remains there, even the failed host recovered. Manual shift needed. Is this normal? Yes. So here, Abdullah has a very important question, and the question is this, guys. Question is that let's say there were VMs sitting on this, and it's a very important question. So the question is, let's say there are these VMs, there are, let's say into 20 VMs on this, and this ESXi host went down, then definitely it is down, then these 20 VMs will be divided among these ESXi hosts. Let's say 10 of the VMs will be here and 10 of the VMs will be here. But what happens when this host come back up? When you fix the host, do you have to manually move the VMs back? Or are they going to automatically, are they automatically being balanced? So my answer is that if DRS service is on, then these will be automatically balanced on this. So the VMs won't remain on this. As soon as this is back, DRS will realize that there is a new ESXi host that is sitting with 0% utilization, because to start with, it has 0 utilization. So what DRS will does, DRS will balance all the VMs on all three ESXi hosts. But you also need to remember that if DRS is with a manual, DRS is working on a manual mode, manual automation mode, then DRS won't move these VMs. In that case, you need to move the VMs and balance the environment. But if it is running on an automation, it fully automated mode, then it will automatically balance all the VMs on all ESXi hosts. So guys, this is where all the three services work together. So DRS, vMotion, and HA. So HA will make sure, so HA actually did its task. As soon as this went down, HA initiated the creation of these VMs on other ESXi host. When this ESXi host is back, then DRS looked at the environment and then it balanced it using vMotion. So vMotion, it automatically balanced the environment.
Sir, can you clear one thing?
Yes.
Sir, once this ESXi host 3 is up, so VMs, I mean, only that VM moves to ESXi3, whoever moved from at the time of down, or
yes,
it can be changed?
It's a good question that only those VMs will be moved that were already sitting on this. So answer is no. It will be based on DRS how it balances those VMs. So it doesn't matter if the VM it moves the same VMs back, or it can move other VMs and just balance the environment.
Right.
Okay. So guys, here it's a good question from Zishan, and also good question from Abdullah. Guys, the requirement of vSphere HA is you must have vCenter, you must have vCenter standard license, at least 3 hosts recommended, but minimum 2 hosts are required. This is what we learned, that it is best to recommended to have at least 3 hosts for HA. And then ESXi host must be with vSphere cluster, and you must have vCenter, you must have vCenter network latency between. So the connection between the vCenter and all ESXi hosts should be less than 10 milliseconds, which means that you must have a fast network between all of the ESXi hosts. So 10 milliseconds is a very small network. Now, how do you enable this? How do you enable HA? Let's see that, guys. Keep all these concepts in mind. That number one, that when we start ESXi, when we enable HA, then election will happen, and one of the ESXi hosts will become master, and other ESXi host will become slaves. So I am going back to So, yes, so Faz is asking a question. What is the so is host means ESXi host? Yes, host means ESXi host. And Abdullah has a question. In the real environment, most time DRS is off. So as an administrator, you need to take care of the move the VMs accordingly. Yes. So in some environments, yes, the DRS might be off and HA is on. In that case, you need to move these VMs manually to the other ESXi host. But Abdullah, in most of the large environments, DRS is on. DRS is on with either manual automation or partially automated mode. So DRS, when the DRS is on, it will take care. But this is a good comment that in some environments DRS might not be there. So everyone, go to your cluster and just enable HA and see what happens. Everyone just go to your cluster and see what happens when you do this. Enable HA, because you just need to enable HA and you don't need to do anything. Rest it will do. It will carry out the election and select one of the ESXi hosts to basically act as a master, and the other ESXi host will be slaves. And when you enable HA, please let me know in the chat window that if you were able to enable HA and is it working for you. Yes, please go ahead, Homan.
Do you have any chance for 10 minutes, sir?
Homan, I cannot hear you.
Sir, it's starting everything again, right? It will start everything again, right?
Everything meaning? It will reconfigure. It will reconfigure.
Yeah, because it says that. Give me 1 second, I can read it.
Okay.
No.
And Homan, can you speak a bit louder, please?
Adnan, but just I have one, but one of them for the break, and first one regard the DRS. But as you mentioned before that, DRS is not activated during the real job.
No. DRS, some of the companies, it might not be activated. Many of the large companies, it is activated, but it might not be on the fully automated mode. It might be manual mode or partially automated mode.
And as a VM admin, each person responsible for all steps you just explained for that, yeah? Or no, it's different team. For example, Articheck's gonna take over of that.
No, this enabling DRS, and this will be your responsibility as a VMware admin, but they will let you know. They will tell you that you should enable, but in most of the places, it is, so whatever is the configuration, you just need to manage the environment. So you might not be doing a lot of changes in the configuration.
Okay, thank you.
So, sir, there are two options. Just need to turn on HA or proactive HA as well.
Just turn on normal HA.
Okay.
We can go for a break in 5 minutes, guys. Everyone, make sure that DRS and HA is turned on. So what we need to see is once HA is on, we need to see which host is master and which host is slave.
I can read waiting for the cluster election to complete,
Yes, yes.
but the status shows it's completed.
It's fine. Sometime it will take in this environment and it will show, I mean, in few minutes. So as soon as you switch on the HA here on the recent task, you will see that it is being configuring vSphere HA. It will go through the election, and after election, it will show us that which ESXi host becomes the master and which one becomes a slave.
Okay.
So Wasim, are you back in the in front of your computer or?
I think he's at work, sir.
But he was, oh, he went, okay. He was driving to work.
Yeah.
He was driving to work. Okay. Okay, good. So Zishan and Salim, how's your network? Ashish, how's your network? VCSA.
I had to just restart it, so I'm just doing the vMotion again right now.
Okay.
Sir,
And-
can you tell me once again,
Yes.
like where we can go to HA, like after summary?
So you enabled HA or you haven't enabled
sir.
HA? Okay.
Still I'm looking.
So
sir.
whenever you need to enable any advanced option, just select cluster and go to configure. So any advanced option needs to be configured in the configure section.
Right.
So within configure, when you go there, the second option is vSphere availability. So they call it now vSphere availability. It is HA option, vSphere HA option, but it is called vSphere availability.
Okay.
So you just need to edit this, and then you can enable this.
Right.
So, sir, it's done. Where I can see
On on ESXi host. So where do you see if it is master? Just select any one of the ESXi host.
Okay.
And on the summary screen, you will be able to see that if it is a master or slave. So in my case, it is still it is still configuring vSphere HA. So it is not decided yet. But in your case, if it is completed, then you should be able to see that.
So sorry, sir, the automation should be manual or like automatic?
Automatic.
Okay, thank you.
You want. Okay, so in my case, it is completed. Let's see if I can go to one of the ESXi hosts and see that. So HA state is loading, and this should be on the configuration screen.
And what would be, sir, remediation, like mix mode or like quarantine mode or maintenance mode?
Default.
Default. Okay.
Just keep everything default and then we'll go back there again.
Okay, thank you.
So on my ESXi2 is a slave. It's right here in the configuration. Whereas, so this means that ESXi1 became the master. And you can see that in the configuration screen. Actually on the configuration screen.
Mine is third master, sir.
Uh-huh. So which means that maybe most of your resources are available on third. Actually, all your ESXi hosts are exactly the same, but so basically there is no hard and fast rule on this. Even the documentation says that there are no hard and fast rule. It automatically creates a formula on which it automatically declares one of them as master and all of them are slaves. The rest of them are slave.
Yeah, now I got it, sir. Because I created two VMs in ESXi host 3, and then I moved them, migrated them to ESXi host 1. I think that's why it has more
Resources.
resources, right?
Yes, but again, there are no hard and fast rule. So if the interview question says that what is the, I mean, what are the main things that you need to know that how one becomes master and the other, so you can tell them the one that has more resources automatically selected by HA. So there is no hard and fast criteria on this that it selects, because if you start explaining them, all of them. So my other ESXi host has more CPU. Yes, this is fine. If one has more CPU than other, then that server will become master. But if all of them are exactly the same, then it will look that which one has more free resources. So, but again, this is automatically decided. So there is a reason why HA is automatically, I mean, you cannot rig this election. You cannot rig this election. And the reason is that this power is with the cluster itself. So cluster will automatically decide which becomes a master and which becomes slave. So guys, here,
Yes, sir.
yes, yes,
So
go ahead.
you mean more free resources, right?
It is more free resources, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Guys, let's take a 10 minutes break here, freshen up, and right after the break, we'll continue with our understanding. Hello, everyone. Welcome back after the break. Okay, excellent. Please type yes in the chat window if you're present. Oh, yes, yes, for sure. Weather is it is hot. It's a bit hot outside. We are using air cons inside, and it's green everywhere. Yes, so uh, yes, I'm not enjoying snow here that you are enjoying. So you have that luxury of enjoying snow and snow shoveling and all that. But here we need to do like every 2 3 weeks we need to do lawn mowing. So lawn mowing takes around 1.5 hour. But I think it is better than snow shoveling, because snow shoveling it takes a lot more energy than just lawn mowing.
Sir, what about the COVID situation? How people are following this SOP of COVID? Are they
Yes,
following over there?
they are following. Now there is a fine too. Some part of Sydney. Sydney is huge, just like GTA. Sydney is huge. There are many suburbs with Sydney. And so the side of the Sydney, there are very strict rules now. So western side of Sydney, where I am, there are not that strict rules. But on the south side of Sydney and some other provinces like Melbourne, Victoria, there are very strict regulation of wearing mask, and there is a fine if you don't wear mask. I think of $200 if people are not wearing masks. So yes, it is. I mean, in the past it was really controlled, but now it is controlled as at the moment. But there are some regulations now. What about Toronto? Are there any strict regulations?
Yeah, sir. Yeah, like might be, sir. We will go with the curfew because Quebec is already they post curfew, and hopefully Ontario also by 3 4 days later.
Oh wow, really?
Yeah.
So since last, I think 5 6 days, the cases are really jumping up.
Oh
Like there
wow.
were almost 1,500, and from there it crossed close to 3,000. And since last week, it's our today I think over 5,000.
5,000. Wow. And here, people coming from UK are because from UK there is that new virus coming. So I think that is on in Canada as well.
Yes, sir. It is here.
So Australia is in the southern hemisphere, and it is near the poles. So do you have a long summer day like we do have in northern hemisphere?
Yes, yes, for sure it is. It is a long summer day. Yeah.
Like it's the sun sets at after 9:30 or 9.
No, 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 no. It is around 8, around 8, 8, 10, 8:15.
So there is
What
no
what
daylight savings.
There is no daylight saving, yes.
Oh, that's why. That's why. So almost like 9 10 then, if you have a daylight saving.
Yes, but it will be I think in June, July, when here it's cold, so there will be a daylight saving at that time.
Daylight saving in okay, opposite.
Yeah, it's the opposite.
Oh.
Okay,
You have a
everyone.
June
Yes.
cold.
Sorry.
So you guys have a cold in June, July?
Yes, yes. So we are in summer now. This is
Oh.
summer. So kids are at home and people are
Nanbai,
enjoying
you
some.
need to start posting some jobs from Australia. Enough said now, like that's it, man. I can't.
So,
Like
mashallah,
looking
we
out my
envy you,
window
sir.
and all I see is snow. You know what I mean? Like it's just like plain snow, man. And you just make me
I
jealous
can
every
feel
day,
it,
right?
guys. I can feel it. And I used to travel. I told you I used to travel within these cold stormy nights on a contract. And I remember all those days and nights. But there is that enjoyment in I mean there is a plus and minus in both sides. So here the problem is it's hot weather. It gets very very hot, and due to the ozone layer, thin ozone layer, there is that problem with the skin and all that as well. But yes, no snow on this side, but there are snow on the mountain. If somebody needs to enjoy snow, there are places you can go to where there is snow.
You are living in a paradise, sir. Mashallah.
Yeah, okay. So but the job market is excellent in Toronto and in US. So the job market is not as good as in North America. So in Australian job market, you can say it is. I think this is at least 30 to 40 times less than in Canada and US.
But sir, mostly people they are willing to go in Australia. Why? What is the reason? Like especially
Because
youth,
they don't know anything about Australia.
mostly
Like
youth
when they move
are
to Canada,
interested.
they don't know much about Canada.
Exactly, exactly. No, if somebody asks me that they're moving from Canada to Australia, I would say think twice, thrice, and 4 times and 10 times before you take the move. Because I know few people already that moved back to Canada and US from Australia. And people from Australia moved to North America, and there are many, many reasons. Uh, for me and my experience is that it's a huge, big modern village. So Australia is like a huge, big modern village as compared to a big. I would call Canada and US as a big city. So yes, you do have these places where you can go, and a lot of places where you can go and enjoy. But in terms of the job market, there is a huge difference. Huge difference.
Thank you so much, sir.
So you're most welcome. And the good thing about Canada is the market of US. So Canadian market is huge because of US market, because the US is huge. And Australia is huge as well, but Australia is in itself. I mean, there is that business going on between China is close by and other countries, Malaysia and all these other countries, but US as part of a huge industrial place and industrial, what do you call?
Industrial base.
Yes, base, industry base. I think that's the big difference.
Okay.
Okay.
Adnan Bhai, I have a question.
Yes, please go ahead.
Just I wondering to know how you adjust yourself for the new location, because you are all over the world. But if you can share with us, some experience you have.
Human, you want to resettle? Are you planning to resettle?
I want to go to US.
Oh, okay. US will be easier. Human, there is just one simple answer, and one simple answer is move with the flow. So it's just move with the flow. I think whatever I've planned, yes, you do plan for a lot of things, but it doesn't go as planned. It's most of the things that happened with me and traveling to Middle East and US, and I've never planned to come. I never had in my wildest dreams that I would come to Australia, but it was all from God's plan. So, and then wherever it takes you, you just need to move with the flow. You just start settling in. You just be on the positive side, then the negative side, and then the things and doors will start opening for you. So wherever you go, if you're positive, you can settle in anywhere. That's what I think, though.
Thank you.
Okay, everyone, So about DRS, another important thing is affinity rules. Affinity rule in DRS, there are two affinity rules. Number one, keep VMs together and keep VMs separated. Keep VMs together and keep VMs separated. So there are two types of affinity rules are there in DRS. Keep VMs separated. Now, if we use this rule, affinity rule, keep VMs together, there is a requirement. First of all, these two are what? Affinity rules. So what are these rules? Affinity rules. Guys, affinity rules, why am I keep on repeating this? Because this can be an interview question. What is the affinity rule in DRS? Guys, affinity rule in DRS, there are two types of rule in there. Number one, keep VMs together or keep VMs separated. And there is a third type of rule as well. Keep VM with a certain host. Keep VM with a certain host. Now, first of all, first rule is, let's say you have two VMs. Let's say in your organization, you have 100 VMs. So example is you have 100 VMs, and among 100 VMs, there are certain VMs that needs to be always together. So if one VM move to ESXi host 1, the second VM must be with that VM. So the example is Active Directory, domain controller, and a DNS. So wherever Active Directory domain controller goes, DNS should be on the same ESXi host or go with the same host. Most of the time, DNS and domain controllers are the same server. So both services will be installed on the same server. But in large organizations, sometimes you have separate DNS service sitting on another server, and domain controller service sitting on another server. So in that case, guys, if you need to keep it together, and if ever DRS take a decision of moving one VM to another ESXi host, and according to this rule, the other VM will automatically move to the other ESXi host. So example is, let's say you have 100 VMs, and two VMs needs to be always together as per technical requirement. As per technical requirement, an example is a domain controller and DNS server. And DNS server. So we can create a keep together affinity rule. And keep together affinity rule will make sure if one VM moves to another ESXi host, if one VM moves to another ESXi host, the other VM will automatically move with it. So this is a rule, and keep separate VM. Keep separate VM is a rule, guys. In this rule, we need to keep two VMs always separated. So which means that, for example, there are two domain controllers, and one domain controller is sitting on ESXi host 1, and second domain controller is sitting on ESXi host 2. And if DRS needs to move first domain controller to another ESXi host, it cannot move it to ESXi 2. It must move it to another ESXi host. So that means, so this means that keep certain VMs separated means that there might be certain VMs that must be kept separated in an ESXi host. So example is two domain controllers, two domain controller servers must be kept on different ESXi hosts. So in this case, what happens is this rule will make sure that two domain controller, whenever they are moved, they will never be on the same ESXi host. And the third one is keep VM on a certain host. Let's say there is a VM that needs to be always on ESXi 5. So this rule will make sure that whenever that VM is moved, or let's say all of them are moved somewhere else, but that VM will always stay on a certain ESXi host. So example is with this rule, a preferred ESXi host will be selected. With this rule, preferred will be selected for a VM, and VM will always be moved to that ESXi host. So guys, here thinking of this, let's say here the first one is keep VMs together. Let's say you have two cars, and in those two cars you need to, or let's say there are three cars and you need to move these people onto these three cars here. So what happens is with this rule, let me get my sketching mark here. So here, keep VMs together. Keep VMs together is this rule. First of all, these are all called affinity rules, number one. And with the affinity rules, what happens is if you have three ESXi hosts, ESXi host 1, ESXi host 2, ESXi host 3, when we create these rules, so guys, these rules are created inside DRS. So they are created inside DRS, which means that for this affinity rules, you must have a vCenter, number one. You must have a cluster, number two. You must have vMotion enabled on them, number three. You must have DRS, and then you can create affinity rules. And then, so in DRS, affinity rules would say that if you have certain VMs, and let's say your environment is working fine and everything is great, but at one point, what happens is that on this ESXi host, you have 80% utilization, and now it has to move. Now it has to move some VMs from here to the other ESXi host. And affinity rule is saying that this VM number 1 and VM number 2 must be together on wherever they move to. So if it moves one of the VMs, if it has to move one of the VMs on this ESXi host, with this rule, it automatically will move this VM as well on this one. So this is called keep VM together. Whereas wherever VM2 will go, VM1 will go with it. Wherever VM1 will go, VM2 will go with it. So if it has to move from here to here, with this rule, it will always keep it together. Whereas what is keep it separate? It is just an opposite rule to that. And keep separate rule will say that if this VM, which is VM number 3, VM number 3 and VM number 5 cannot be together on this on any ESXi host. Let's say if DRS decides to move number 3 to somewhere, so it cannot move it on this one, because the separate rule is saying that VM3 and VM5 cannot be on the same server at any point in time. So the only option for VM3 to move, it will move it to this ESXi host. So this is saying that, so this means and why is it so? So it might be a technical requirement, because let's say this is your DC1 and this is your DC2. And you don't want to keep both DCs on the same ESXi host. And the reason is that, let's say if both of the DCs are sitting here and this goes down, so then both DCs are not available. So for that reason, in case, I mean, yes, HA will be there to protect it. Let's say HA is not there and this ESXi host goes down, then both DCs are down and no authentication will be there. So for that reason, you can create a keep separate VM affinity rule, saying that if 5 needs to move somewhere else, if this VM needs to move somewhere else, it cannot be moved on this one. It can only be moved on this one where the other VM is not there. And the third affinity rule is just saying that certain VMs keep VM to a certain ESXi host. Let's say you have 3 different ESXi hosts. This one has 4 CPUs, this one has 4 CPUs, but this one has 8 CPUs. This is a new new ESXi host. So in this case, you're saying, since I have this VM, which is really important VM, and this VM is a very heavy VM, this VM requires many vCPUs and it needs a powerful host. So you can say, you can decide for this one, saying that this VM, the preferred ESXi host is ESXi host 3. So for VM number 6, this is the preferred ESXi host. If for any emergency, this VM is moved to somewhere else, it will always move it back to this ESXi host because it is more powerful as compared to other ESXi host. So guys, these are the 3 affinity rules we need to remember within this. And now let's see where are these affinity rules within the environment. So within the environment, we need to go to your VCSA, everyone. Go to your VCSA, and within VCSA, go to DRS setting. And before that, I'll just take a picture of this so that we can put it in the notes. Okay. So guys, here everyone, in order to create these rules, you need to go back to your cluster, number 1. And once you're in the cluster, you need to go here in the configuration. So within the configuration, this is where the rules are. So here, VM and host rules. So here you can create groups, and here you can create these rules right here. So within VM rules, if you click on VM rules, so where I am, guys, we need to be in the cluster, number 1. You need to go to the configure, and within configure, you need to select VM rules. So once this comes back here, it is just still loading the configuration, and I think DRS and everything is making it a bit more slower because it's keep on doing automation here. Okay. So anyways, guys, once this comes back, we can create a rule in this. So we will come back to this lab here. Guys, let's understand what is FT. FT is basically a technology, guys. FT is a technology in which, and we discussed that in the previous lecture, and we won't be able to do any labs in FT. Why? Because FT has a very strict requirement, It's a wrong sentence. FT has a strict requirements. So strict requirements mean that FT requires a certain type of CPU. Not all CPU will work with FT. There are certain type of CPU that can only work with FT. So for that is one of the requirement. First of all, FT stands for fault tolerant. So fault tolerance is a feature in which fault tolerance is a feature, guys. Everyone, please remember that fault tolerance is a feature in which we create a copy of a second VM and a live copy of this VM. So this is my VM. Let's say this is the most important VM of my organization. This VM is making every day, let's say, thousands of dollars for my company. And how this VM will make thousands of dollars for my company? So probably this might be e-commerce server. So this might be an e-commerce server. There are hundreds of users connected here, and they are making purchases on this VM because it's a web server, it's a website, and there are thousands of dollars made for this VM, and you cannot afford for this VM to go down even for seconds. So with fault tolerance, the features are no downtime, no data loss, no loss of TCP connection, which means the networking connection, and achieve 100% uptime all the time. So achieve 100% uptime 365 days a week. 350 around the clock, you will get 100% uptime. Now, what is the cost of this? Guys, the cost of this is that a copy of this VM will be made on this ESXi host. So this is an exact copy. Everything that is happening on this VM will be copied on this VM. So what happens at the time of failure? If the VM goes down, this will become primary. If the ESXi goes down, then this will become primary. In both cases, it is protected, but the cost is that you need to have strong ESXi host, and not all type of CPU will work for this. There are only special type of CPUs will work for this. There are strict requirements around this. But before we can go to the requirement, we need to remember what is FT. Now, and before even going there, if your question might be how many places I've seen FT, guys, zero places I've seen FT in use. It might be used in maybe very, very large environment, but I've been in large environment as well. I've not seen FT. The reason is, number one, the requirements are very strict, number one. Number two, you need, and even if you put it on, it will take up a lot of your CPU or resources in use. But again, it is one of the features that vCenter provides. Maybe in some places it might be used. But we need to remember that for interview purposes, what is FT in ESXi or VMware environment? FT stands for fault tolerance. With FT, your VM won't have downtime, no data loss, no loss of networking. You can achieve 100% uptime. And the reason is you have a running VM that is sitting there. So one of them, this will be the active VM. And guys, this is the reason why in HA you don't have primary and secondary. In HA, remember, we have one master and all other. We have one master and all other are slaves. So this becomes master, and this is slave, this is slave, this is slave. A long time back, this is also known as, this was active. This was active or primary, and these were passive or secondary. But since now a primary and secondary is used within FT, so this is why they changed in HA, they call them master and slaves. So fault tolerance is that feature in which you create a copy of this VM, and the copy of the VM will be used for this purpose, guys. So we need to remember these concepts: no downtime, no data loss. And how can you not have a downtime and data loss? Guys, the reason is that an exact copy of this VM is created and maintained 24/7. Meaning users are making transactions here, same transactions will be copied on this one as well. Same transactions will be copied on this one. As soon as this dies, this is 100% equal to this. All the users will be connected to this without any downtime. Now, there are some requirements for this. So first of all, what are the difference between FT and HA? The difference between FT and HA is that vSphere HA has a downtime of few seconds. And HA provides 99.99% uptime. So there are those few seconds when the VMs are restarted on the other ESXi host, whereas FT doesn't have any downtime even for a second, and it provides 100% uptime. So that's the main difference you need to remember for interviews, that FT, there is no downtime. With HA, there is some seconds of downtime. And with FT, use cases are applications that need 100% uptime. So where is FT used? Where the application you need 100% uptime. For example, banking websites. So for example, banking website where you log into your banking account and you make transactions, and application which doesn't support native cluster, cases where high availability must be provided through custom clustering solution, which are too complicated and configure maintain. So which means that here it's saying that for some application, you do need to use the other type of clustering. So for example, Windows failover cluster. So for example, Windows failover cluster. For Windows failover cluster, you do need to use it on some of the settings. Some of the applications. Mainly, guys, remember that where do you use FT? we use FT where you cannot afford to have even seconds of downtime. Mostly these are banking servers, mostly these are e-commerce servers where transactions are happening and you cannot take them down. Then you have in FT there is primary VM and secondary VM. So we need to remember that. And how do you enable that? You just need to go to the VM and you need to enable FT. And as soon as you enable FT, first of all, it will make sure that the FT requirements are there. So there are some FT requirement, which I will show you in the other screen in the next slide. So you need to make sure that those requirements are met. And once those requirements are met, what it does, it will create a clone of this VM. So it will create a clone of this VM and it will copy that VM and it will make exactly the same VM. And once it is made, it's not finished. It will keep on updating this VM and keep it 24/7 up to date. So this is an expensive option, but again, since this VM is making a lot of money for you, money is not an issue in that case, where people don't think about money, because in that case, because this VM is making, it's your e-commerce website, it's your banking website where people are making transactions. So whatever it takes, they will they will enable FT on this VM, even if they have to buy two the most expensive servers. So let's say they need to buy two $10,000 cost of server, maybe $20,000 cost of server. They will enable a primary and secondary VM for that because they don't want to lose this VM, no connectivity loss, no downtime for this. So when you enable FT, one of them will become actually the main one will become a primary, the other one will become secondary. And the requirement of FT are these. Number one, CPU must be compatible with vMotion. CPU must be compatible with vMotion. Number one. Number two is you must have CPU must support it should support MMU virtualization is required. Now MMU stands for Memory Management Utilization. Memory Management Unit, which basically a special special memory with caching information. So basically what we are talking about, MMU is a special type of RAM. Remember the role of RAM? What is the role of RAM in the server? Guys, RAM is that waiting area in which the information will be stored before it is sent to the CPU for processing. We remember that right from the beginning, that RAM is the waiting area where all of the information stored in RAM, and then from the RAM it goes to CPU, and then it is processed, and then it will be sent to the screen. So MMU is a special type of memory. So you need to have that special type of memory that has a special type of cache information, guys. And what is the reason? The reason is, since in FT, one primary VM, everything will be copied on the secondary VM. So you must have a robust or very fast memory available with a feature of MMU. So whenever you think of buying a server especially for FT, always make sure that the CPU can support MMU type of virtualization that is required for FT. Number two, you must use 10 GB of logging network for FT. So there should be that special network created in the networking for FT. And remember, guys, that today at the beginning of this lecture, when we were discussing about VM kernel port, 4 different functions. So VM kernel port 4 functions, and those functions were, what are the 4 functions? Number one, management. Number two, you have storage or iSCSI traffic. It can handle iSCSI traffic. Number 3 was vMotion, and number 4 was FT traffic. So number 4 is FT traffic, guys. So FT traffic, this is the FT that you need to enable. So that FT will be enabled on a VM kernel port. Next one, vSphere HA must be created and enabled. So for FT, HA is a must requirement. So HA must be there, which means that vMotion is a must requirement as well. So vMotion must be there, because for HA cannot be enabled without vMotion. So HA must be there, which means vMotion must be there as well. DRS is not a requirement for FT, but FT has these requirements. Number one, CPU must be compatible. Now this option is important important because not all CPUs support FT. For example, if I go now in the lab and we can try to see that if our CPU is FT compatible, if we go into this here and if I go onto ESXi host, one of the ESXi host here, and on this ESXi host right in the configuration screen, everyone, it will let us know that if our ESXi host CPU is FT compatible or not. So on the configuration screen here, so on the configuration screen, if I go here in fault tolerance, it is loading that configuration. In both of them, it's saying it's not supported. So most of the time, common CPUs are not supported. There are always only few CPUs where you can support fault tolerance legacy, meaning previous versions FT and the newer version of FT, both are not supported. Guys, just to make this cluster, my VCSA working in a smooth manner, I am going to disable DRS and HA at the moment so that we can have we can check these other features. So I'm going to the config because I think DRS is keep on monitoring this infrastructure and it's which is keeping the VCSA busy. So I'm gonna go here and okay, so I'll come back to this again. Okay, so here guys, FT, for FT, we need to remember these concepts that FT requires a special CPU. It requires a special RAM on the CPU. It requires a special network with 10 GB network. Yes, Ishan, go ahead.
No, sorry, sir.
Okay, so here vSphere HA cluster must be there. All the hosts must be licensed hosts, and no supported devices are attached. No supported devices are attached in the VM, which means that VM and think of this requirement, guys. This means that on the VM there shouldn't be any extra devices attached to this VM, which means that there shouldn't be any USBs stored connected to this. No outside devices must be connected to this VM. So no external devices. So the device external. So mostly this means that no external devices must be connected to that VM. So these are all of the requirements of FT. And FT, just remember a general understanding of FT. Number one, FT creates a primary VM and a secondary VM will be created. The biggest advantage of FT is that it will give you 100% availability of any VM. And remember that you need to do FT on one by one VM. It is not for all of the VMs. So if you have 10 VMs, you can select any 2 or 3 VMs to be for the FT. So you cannot switch on FT more than 4 VMs. So let's say I have ESXi host, 3 ESXi hosts here, and each ESXi host has 2 or 3 VMs inside. So in that case, what happens is that you can create, you cannot enable FT. I can enable FT on VM per basis. So I can go to this VM and enable FT only on this VM. So then a copy of a secondary copy will be created on another ESXi host. What happens if the primary copy goes down, guys? If the primary copy goes down, then the secondary will become primary and another copy will be created automatically on another VM. So we also need to remember that what happens if the main copy goes down, then obviously second copy will become primary and automatically without you doing anything, it will create a secondary copy. So a secondary copy of that machine will be created. Now here, FT maximum. So FT maximum meaning that virtual disk cannot be more than 16 disks. You cannot have more than 16 disks on a VM. The disk size cannot be more than 2 TBs. And virtual CPUs cannot be more than 8 CPUs, and RAM per FT cannot be more than 128 GB RAM, and FT per VMs cannot be more than 4. So this is what I just said, that if on each ESXi host maximum you can enable FT on 4 VMs. not more than 4 VMs. So on each, so this is host number 1, and there are, let's say, 25 VMs on this. You can enable FT on 4 selected VMs. Your question might be, what if I need to enable FT on more VMs? So in that case, you need to move that VM on another ESXi host, then you can enable FT. But guys, remember, as soon as you enable FT, your network will become more and more busy. So we need to decide 10 times before we can enable FT on anything. And plus, you also need to provide a special configuration as well. So a question from Abdullah: when FT does not have significant installed base, what reason still is part of VMware offering? Is it requires separate license? No, it doesn't require separate license. It is included in your vCenter license. And vCenter license, there is a standard license and there is enterprise license. I think FT is included in enterprise license. It is not part of the standard license. So once you have a license, then you can enable FT. But Abdullah's question is, when FT does not have any significant installed base. So yes, which means that there are many strict requirements for FT. Then what is, then why is this option here? Guys, this option is here because VMware wants to provide this option. I mean, other than FT, there is no other thing that, there is no other feature, or there is no other, what do you call, option within VMware. There is no other option in VMware that can provide 100% uptime. Now, other than virtualization, even in the physical world, there is nothing that can provide 100% availability other than failover clusters. In failover cluster, yes, you can move services from one place to another, but that is, even failover cluster will provide high availability for an application, for a certain application. But this is a huge, big feature. So this is a very important feature for organization that can afford, number one, and number two, if they can afford, and definitely many organizations can afford this feature, since their revenue, I mean, they are making a lot of money from their VMs. They should, I mean, they should easily be, it should be affordable for many organizations. And the feature is that your VM is always 100% up no matter what. Even if you're updating them, even if you're shutting them down, restarting them, your users will never be disconnected. So VM, yes, so enterprise version. So this is VM standard and enterprise version allow 2 vCPUs, and vSphere Enterprise Plus allows, it can allow basically 8 vCPUs. So guys, here we need to remember that FT can be enabled on only 4 of the VMs within ESXi host. And this is because, I mean, if you enable more, so they have put a requirement here that there must be not more than 4 VMs for FT. If you enable more than, I mean, first of all, you cannot enable them. And the reason is that 4 FT will be very heavy for their ESXi host. If you need to enable FT on the 5th one, then you need to move it onto another ESXi host, and then you can enable FT. And what happens when you enable FT on one of the VMs? What it does, it creates a secondary copy of that VM, and all the users will still be connected to the primary VM as long as this VM is up. And as soon as it goes down, all the VM will be automatically connected to this one. And the interview question is, what if the primary goes down? Then what happens to the secondary? Guys, first of all, secondary will become primary, and another copy will be created on another ESXi host. So definitely in that environment where you are enabling FT, there are not only 2 ESXi hosts, there will be more ESXi hosts. So there can be this third ESXi host on which it will create a third copy. It will create a secondary copy of this VM. So this becomes a primary, and secondary copy is here. So it will automatically maintain that.
So, can you tell me one thing, sir? Do we nominate any ESXi host to replicate, or it is automatically transferred to any of? ESXi
Yes,
host?
it's a good question that as soon as you create a primary VM, do we need to select that which ESXi host will host a secondary copy? So you can select it, but but we'll leave it automatic. My recommended is that let automatically vCenter or the cluster decide that where should the second copy be sitting. Whereas there is an option where you can select one of the ESXi hosts to have the secondary copy. Okay, so here you can see that as soon as you enable FT, a synchronized CPUs are here, a synchronized setting is here, everything is here. So now this becomes a secondary copy for this. Now, other characteristics for vMotion. So here it can support vSphere vMotion migration from primary and secondary VMs. It can support multiple disk format, thin provision, thick provision, lazy zeroed, thick provision, and eager zeroed. It can be used with vSphere DRS only when enhanced VM virtualization vMotion compatibility is enabled. So there is that one option for VM enhanced compatibility. This is just one checkbox. When you select DRS, you need to enable that checkbox. If that checkbox is enabled, then FT can work with DRS and it can support interoperability with vSAN. So vSAN is basically one of the storage options within vSphere, within this ESXi environment. vSAN is basically, I mean, we use iSCSI. There is one option called vSAN in which we can use local disk. So FT can be used with vSAN when required. Okay. So any question on FT, anyone? So here, what I wanted to do, everyone, was to disable. So please disable DRS in your clusters as well if you want to basically have it running smoothly. What I'm doing is I'm going into DRS, going into edit, and guys, we need to remember one thing here. So here, the concepts that we are learning, these concepts are all very, very important concepts that will be used in the market. And other than that, so before going for interviews, guys, we will go for the interview questions and summary as well. So within the summary and interview question, there might be some new things. We all will be ready to prepare the interview questions. For interview, we need to go a little bit more than this, but on the practical basis, this is all what we need to handle within the real environment. I mean, most of the time you won't even need to have to enable DRS because DRS is already there. DRS is working. HA is there. HA will be working. Most of the time as VMware admin, you're managing resources and this environment is so automatic, guys. This is like an automatic car. I mean, so the difference between manual car and automatic car, we all know that manual car, you're always busy. You're always kind of working with the clutch, working with the gear. You're always your left side or right side, depending on wherever you're driving, is busy. An automatic car, you just put it into a gear and it just keeps on going, guys. VMware environment is that such environment. Most of the things are automatic. Everything is automatic. DRS is taking actions for us. HA is protecting our host failure. FT is there for the VM protection. Cluster is there to automatically manage resources. Then your question will be, then what is the reason of this certification? Why do we need to learn this? Guys, the reason is that there is still requirement for some human intelligence to troubleshoot this environment. When this complete environment goes down, then so you're driving an automatic car and it stops on the road, then what can you do? That automatic gear cannot help you, because then you need to find other means to fix that fix what is wrong. Maybe your engine is heating up, maybe. So same goes for in this. So automation is there, but maybe the CPU is heating up for one of the hosts, and that CPU is always hanging up your environment. So this is where VMware admins are required to keep an eye on this environment. So most of the time, as being a VMware admin, You don't have to do much in this, but if you understand the technology and you are certified, only then they will prefer you over other candidates to hand over you this environment. So we need to understand that. Then at the end of these trainings, we will create summaries, and we will prepare the interview questions. So there we'll go into maybe a bit more detail about FT, DRS, and HA and all that. Guys, the one more important topic that we can cover today, and most probably that we need one more day for this training, and after that we'll basically take 1 week off after that. But next lecture we still need to go through in order to basically wrap up everything that what we have learned in VMware, number one, and number two is that we need to cover just 2 or 3 more important services. So one of the service that is known as vSphere Update Manager. Guys, vSphere Update Manager and all of these are rest of the 3 services, guys, there is no practical. Because why? Because these require all the 3 services that are required. So service number 1 is known as Update Manager. So first one is this one, which is called WUM. This is called WUM. WUM means vSphere Update Manager. So vSphere Update Manager is one of the service. And also remember that in interviews, they might check you, what do you know about WUM? Guys, WUM is nothing but an update service. So it is an update service with which we can update our ESXi environment. Guys, what is the service that updates the Windows environment? So just think for a second. Yes.
WSUS.
Excellent. WSUS. So Naveed, thank you. Any other person other than Naveed, what does WSUS stand for?
Sir, window update.
Server update service.
Yes.
Windows Server update service.
Excellent. And also Salim said it. Salim, is this the same thing you were saying?
Yeah, almost same, sir.
Okay, excellent. So Windows Server Update Service, guys. So what is the function of Windows Update Service, guys? What it does, so from Windows, from Microsoft Network, it downloads all the updates to your environment. So it downloads all the updates to the WSUS servers, all security patches, all update, and from here it will update your complete environment. So if you have 100 servers, it will update all your 100 servers. So this WSUS server has this job, and we had that covered in detail within the Windows server, that how does it download these updates. And these updates are of many types. These are security patches, these are updates of features, these are upgrades as well. So upgrade to a operating system, upgrades and updates, all are here as part of this complete WSUS. So but within WSUS, we need to remember that WSUS is a service that is installed on one of the servers. It will receive all the updates and patches and then will update your infrastructure. Guys, exactly like that, in VMware, there is something called WUM. WUM is a service that will receive updates from VMware. So VMware infrastructure, so VMware infrastructure, where all of the security patches, all the updates and all the upgrades. So which means security patches, SP, it has all of the updates meaning features update, and the third one is upgrades. So upgrades, basically that means upgrades meaning upgrade to a newer operating system. So all these things, all these 3 things, security patches, features, and upgrades are sent to the WUM server, and WUM service, basically it is one of the services, and it receives all of these patches and upgrades and everything. And from here, it will update our ESXi infrastructure. So what can it update? So once it receives all of them, then it will update our vCenter. It will update our ESXi host, and it will also update the VMs with the VMware tools. So remember that all of the VMs that are installed in ESXi host, they all have VMware tools installed. So it updates everything that is received from here. Guys, few years back, and I'll come back to your question, Alamgir, just a second here. Few years back, WUM used to update Windows updates as well. So VUM used to also update Windows servers as well. I mean, VUM, apart from updating the complete ESXi environment, so it can update VCs, it can update ESXi host, it can update the VMware tools inside VMware, inside the VMs. Before few years back, it used to it used to run Windows updates as well. But around 3 to 5 years back, they stopped it. Now the VUM is only responsible to update the ESXi environment. But if you have any Windows server, you still need WSUS to update your environment separately. So either it will be WSUS server or maybe SCCM server. SCCM server will be the one that will be updating the VM's operating system, whereas VUM will only update all of the ESXi components. So it will update the vCenter, ESXi host, and the VMware tools inside the VM. Interview question is that which type of service VUM is responsible to update inside the VM. So inside the VM, VUM is only responsible to update VMware tools. Alamgir, you can ask a question.
Yes, sir. In WSUS, definitely system admin, he updates, everything after checking everything, and after checking the updates and he's satisfied 100%, then he updates. What about in VUM? It automatically or administrator does it?
No. Everything done by administrator. It's not automatic. Everything will be done by administrator. So what happens is, first of all, we need to install the VUM service. It is one of the appliances that we need to download. It is a licensed product. So for that reason, you cannot have VUM in a testing environment, or you need to have special licenses from VMware. Once you download it, and probably if any one of you have created a new VMware license, you will be able to download VUM as well. So by next lecture, if any one of you are able to download VUM, then we can test that out. VUM, and also if you can download VDP. VDP is VMware Data Protection. So VUM is an update service. So this can update your environment. And VDP is a backup application. So this backups your complete environment. Remember that in Windows, there was a Windows backup that was taking care of the complete backup of your infrastructure. So in ESXi environment, that is known as VDP. VDP stands for VMware Data Protection. So if you have a new account and you have a new account in VMware, you can download both of the appliances. So just download both of the appliances and share it with us. Then we can try it somewhere sometime.
So same rule as Windows WSUS, right?
It is same rule as so yes. So going back to your question, yes, it works exactly the same way as WSUS. So let's say in an interview, they ask you a question. They ask you a question about VUM. So guys, everything that you remember about WSUS, just tell them everything that you know about WSUS. Just replace WSUS with VUM. So yes, the VUM download updates from VMware website. It will download security patches, features, and upgrades, and then keep them in the VUM service. And VUM will then update the complete environment. But yes, there is interaction required. VMware admin, you and me will be sitting right here, and we will be managing this update. So we will basically select which security patches needs to go here, which upgrades needs to go here, and then we will deploy them manually. We can automate this complete process, but we can deploy this manually as well.
So, sir, VDP stands for
VMware Data Protection.
Okay, thank you.
So let me see. Naveed asked a question: is there a video to download VDP? So let's try this now. So I'm going to download vSphere Update Manager. You can try that on your machine as well, guys. So you can log in vSphere Update Manager. So when you go to download vSphere Update Manager, obtain vSphere Update Manager installer here. So last time when I checked, guys, you cannot download if you don't have a licensed product. So before that, you need to have a licensed product, then only you can download. But I'm not sure because the terms and conditions change. Okay, so you can download for free ESXi host. You can download vCenter for evaluation, but I think you cannot download VM or VDP. Both of them are licensed product. If somebody has a real license key and real account in any organization, then you can download. Otherwise, guys, what you can do is just understand the concept will be enough for this feature. So let's say if I'm going here, it's saying that to obtain the update manager installer, you need to install update manager for Windows for vCenter for this. Okay, so there is this. And so it's saying that you need to go to VMware website. You need to log into VMware website once you download this. And once this is all downloaded, then you need to basically go here, mount the ISO image virtual machine in your physical device. Okay, so it's saying that VUM is kind of included with the vCenter CD. So let's see that. Let's see that probably it might be included within the CD. So for that, what I'm doing is I will mount the VCSA CD on my Windows server. So going on to my VCSA, actually we can look at it on the server itself because we have VCSA CD. So I think this was mounted already. So if it is not mounted, we can just right click on this and mount. So let's mount this CD that is already on our Windows server. When we installed VCSA, remember you went through stage 1 and stage 2, and the CD should be mounted here. And if we go into the CD, so this is the CD, and within the CD, let's see if this folder is here. So going into the CD, and here I can see VCSA installer, VCSA CLI installer, VCSA UMDS. I don't know what that is, but let's go inside and see. This is VM.
So that's the one. That's the one. UMDC update.
Okay, this is the one.
Yeah, because it was there on the website. They have renamed it, I think.
Okay. I mean, there are many things that they change and hold on. So UMDS. We can check that out. What is UMDS? Because once you log in to, you can log into VMware website. From there, you can download. So we can say vSphere, and vSphere UMDS. What is vSphere UMDS? So using VMware Update Manager download. Okay, so this is a download. This will be able to download the VMware update. So it's not the complete update. I think for that it will ask for the username process. So here going down here, installation, you can require connection, download patches and documentation. And here is the configuration. So to view current configuration, you can run here and going down here. Okay, so I think this is a complete utility. This is one of the software, but there is that other software as well. So UMD, so you need to download updates from here, but this is not a complete VUM. VUM is a complete, VUM is basically it's an OVF file. It's a complete appliance that you need to download, and then you can work with it. Okay, so Naveed is also providing that YouTube video here. So guys, this is what we need to check. So we can check that out right from here, everyone. So this is just a downloader, but for now, I want you to understand the concepts here. I mean, it's not, so later on, I will try to provide a video for this. But if we can understand the concept, that will be good for now on this one. But if somebody is able to download VUM and can provide a shared link, then we can try that out as well.
Otherwise, too much information.
We still have 1 hour to go, so let's take a 10 minutes break.
Really?
Yes.
As long as you're gonna finish
come on.
VCP tonight.
So why you are ruining your summer?
No, I enjoy trainings. I can go for another 4 hours. I know it's late for you guys.
It's a Monday here, that's the problem.
So by the way, what
yes.
time do you get up, sir, in the morning? Because
I
mashallah,
get, yes. So normally I get up 4:30. So my day starts 4:30, alhamdulillah. And then, normally 3 or 4 hours of sleep is enough. And then starting with the project and then training and then everything, once you get into that habit, you will get into that.
and so what time you sleep then? 12 o'clock, 4 hours.
Normally, yeah, 12, 1, like that every day.
Wow.
That's
Oh,
why,
that's
sir, you are
very good.
successful. That is
And
the
then you don't sleep
secret
at
of
all
your
in the daytime.
success.
No, we all will be successful, inshallah. And once you start working in contracts, I know the for now it is difficult for all of you to understand. I know that, but guys, trust me. Once you are in a contract, once you start getting that per hour amount, you will automatically set up your schedule. It will be easier for you as well to basically do many things at the same time.
Sir, I wish I can have a first contract with you.
Inshallah, you get a better contract. You will get a better contract. And guys, the important thing here is it's not a TED talk though, but it's very, very important that we need to be honest with this cause. So I know that you're doing exams, you're doing labs, you're doing notes, you will be doing VCP. But as long as you honestly are spending time with this complete training, guys, right after the training, you will start getting into the contracts.
Inshallah, sir.
Inshallah. Okay, guys, since it is too much information, I don't want it to be overflowing. So we will continue that in the next lecture. And after the next lecture, we'll take 1 week break.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, everyone, thank you so much. And I did share that DRS video. I will be sharing the other videos as well. So please make sure that we go through DRS at least.
Thank
Sir,
you so
what
much.
was the MMU, what MMU stands for in FT?
Memory Management Unit.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Okay, everyone. Thank you for this session. Thank you for your time. Your time is very, very precious. I 100% understand that. And I'm praying. And at the same time, we are working hard, guys. There is no shortcut to success. There is no shortcut to success. And the hard work that you all are doing, this is what is required. So if you have already put your time and money and everything here, inshallah, everyone will be successful.
So one last question.
Yes.
Is it humanly possible to have 4 hours sleeps? I'm not talking about yourself. Just want to know for my own. Is it
So
humanly possible?
you mean that I'm a robot? I'm a
Mashallah, you are a God-gifted person, sir.
So, but minimum 5 hours required. Like,
No.
if you want to be a healthy person, like minimum 5 hours you have to sleep.
Yes, that is good. So sometimes I do get like a power nap in the afternoon. So whenever I get a chance, maybe 45 minutes, 1 hour, and 4 hours there. So this will balance out. And sometimes when you're so much tired, then in the weekend you get extended sleep. So that happens too.
Okay, thank you so much, sir. May Allah bless you.
Okay, and all of you as well.
And sir, remember me in your dua.
For sure. Always.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you everyone. See you in the next lecture.
Thank you,
Thank
Adnan
you.
bhai. Allah
Thank you,
Hafiz.
Allah. Thank you.
Uh,